What is up? What is up, YouTube? What is up, chat? What's up, boxing family? It's your man, Sean Zittel, holding it down from the illustrious, elaborate high-tech studios here in Las Vegas for a good fight. A fight I didn't give enough attention to this week and in the lead-up. I was out in Denver Thursday for Thursday Night Football, so that's an excuse and a flex I'll use to rationalize me not giving Erickson Lubin and Vergil Ortiz enough attention this week. This is a good fight that has, maybe you could say, snuck up on us, but for those of you that have been doing your due diligence, being good boxing heads, this hasn't snuck up on you, but this is a good fight. And my original thought on this fight was, you know, Lubin's solid and everything, but he's been stopped twice, and this is an appetizer for more important fights for Vergil Ortiz with Fundora and Boots and Bakram and everybody else in the Xander Zayas. And now I'm like, no, this is a good fight in and of itself. This is a good entree by itself because Lubin has, in some ways, a favorable style matchup tonight. He has, you know, he's a southpaw, gives half of his body. He has a good stab jab to the body to kind of create things against the high guard and pressure of Vergil Ortiz. You know, Lubin has probably a lot of the style and some attributes to give Vergil Ortiz fits, but we know what the big question is for him tonight, and that's punch resistance and durability over 12 rounds of the volume, the power, and the ferocity of Vergil Ortiz. So Lubin should be able early, before Ortiz starts to really build up a head of steam and take this fight into depth. Lubin early should be a step ahead, you would think. And with the southpaw stance and his good hand speed, good boxing skills, he should be able to tag Ortiz early. And that'll tell us a lot of the fight early is how well Ortiz takes that. If Ortiz just walks through it and cuts the distance behind his jab, you know, Lubin's in for a long night. But if Lubin can buckle Ortiz, hurt him, get his respect at the very least with a good shot out of the southpaw stance early, then he's in business. You know, we have a fight. So it's just that punch resistance. It's that durability over 12 rounds with a guy who's been stopped twice in Lubin. But stylistically, you know, he may have a little bit of an advantage against Vergil. That's why I put in the poll right now, high guard Vergil, because I do think, and Vergil will mix it up a little bit. He will drop his lead hand to his chest a little bit and give off he has good feet too. And I think what's underrated about Vergil, I always say it about him, is his hand speed, especially as a combination puncher, and he has a really good jab too. But for the most part, you know, he's fighting out of that high guard. And I do think Lubin, who has that good stab jab to the body as a southpaw, you know, he should be able to find openings in the center of the ring early. So, again, stylistically, he has a little bit of a favorable matchup in some ways, but in other ways he does not, because he's chinny and he's a little bit shop-worn, and he's in against a relentless, young, ferocious fighter who's got underrated hand speed and is one of the best combination punchers in the game, and he hits hard. So I'm picking Vergil Ortiz tonight, but when I broke down tape this week, I got a little bit more intrigued because of that positioning between their two stances. Vergil with the high guard, Lubin a skilled southpaw, and I think in some ways that is a favorable style matchup for Lubin. But ultimately, I think you got to favor Vergil tonight. But I'm looking forward to the fight. Let me say what's up to a few people in the chat. Matt Borgeson, thank you, brother, for the super chats. I'm gonna get to them in just a moment, man. Palm Tree One, what's up, Marvelous Irv? Lorenzo Razzo says he's got Vergil Ortiz by TKO. Edward Young says he's got Hammer Lubin. Flip War Buck says, who looks bigger, Sean? I thought at the weigh-in, both guys looked at good size. I think Lubin looks a little drained these days. He's been making 154 a long time. And Lubin's might be in a territory that is difficult for a fighter when they become a tweener. When they start to become too big for their weight class they've always traditionally made, but they don't look like their best, that they'll translate 100% at the next weight they'd have to make. But yeah, I think they both looked in great shape, and Lubin looked big. He might have just looked a little a little drained at the weight, but I don't, no excuses for either fighter tonight. I think, again, I do think, the Fundora fight might take effect against Lubin, but he was always a little chinny. So it's not like he had great punch resistance before Fundora. So may the best man win. I'm just looking forward to this. Right now, Josh Edwards, along with Richard Torres, our best hope in the heavyweight division for the United States is coming to the ring. But Edward Young saying Vergil hasn't faced a southpaw since 2018, and that guy was no Erickson. DeAndre Martin is taking Vergil Ortiz by suspicious decision. Matt Borgeson said, nah, Zittel, he's going to win. All right, let's see. I got a super chat from my man Matt Borgeson saying, what's up, Zittel family? I got Lubin by knockout like everyone else. Tarver, Shakur, Bud, Teddy Atlas, Tim Bradley all think Lubin's got a shot. I got Lubin. Well, to your point, I'm not moving off the Vergil pick, but what's up, Eric Gomez, too, and Bebop Jones. Bang, bang. Shout out to everyone. But, yeah, like you, I'm not going to pick Lubin, but once fight week got here, I got the sense that we got a real fight. And if I was a betting man betting on this fight at what is Lubin, like plus 500, plus 450 tonight, I think that's worth a run for the money. But there's also an inevitability. There's a sense of inevitability to this matchup that fight week's here, and now you could convince yourself, or you could work yourself up, you could watch tape and see Lubin's skills in the middle of the ring, go, you know what? He actually didn't get robbed against Jesus Ramos, man. A lot of people were wrong about that fight. And, you could watch him and then start to convince yourself, you know what? And that high guard of Vergil Ortiz is kind of straight up and down. I think he's gonna be upset Ortiz. But then there's an inevitability that now this guy's been stopped twice. At some point, Ortiz is gonna touch that chin. Ramos was able to get to him, and he's not overall the offensive fighter and whirlwind at this stage of his career that Ortiz is. Different styles. Ramos is a southpaw too and has his lead hand low. But overall, he's not the offensive package that Ortiz is. I just think if you put your money on Lubin, you're going to be feeling really good at some point in this fight early in the first couple rounds. But then when that inevitability occurs and Ortiz gets to him as the fight progresses and he stops him, you'll go, fuck, that was inevitable. I should have known better. That, of course. So maybe that's the likely outcome we have tonight, is that Lubin boxes really well, as he always does in any fight not named the Jermell Charlo fight where he got caught cold in the first round. He always boxes well. He dropped Fundora in the other fight that he lost. So Lubin boxes well, but inevitably punch resistance doesn't hold up over 12 rounds to the volume of Ortiz. That's the hunch I have tonight, is that Lubin will make a fight for it. He will give you a run for your money, but if you're betting on him, you're still going to lose that money. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, and Matt Borgeson with the other super chat saying, hot take, I actually watched Ramos versus Lubin, and I think Lubin won. I covered that fight. What was that? Canelo Charlo, I believe. Undercard, and I thought, in the center of the ring, Lubin was the effective fighter, and then on the ropes, Ramos had really eye-catching moments, a lot of effectiveness against the ropes. But Lubin kept that fight in the center of the ring for 2/3 of the round. That was a close fight, from what I recall. But all right, Josh Edwards, round one. Josh Edwards, I remember interviewing this dude back in Colorado Springs with my man Sean Porter before he was getting ready for the Olympics. This dude has a good talent, good amateur pedigree. He's been getting nice knockouts as a pro. He's starting this first round with his jab a lot. Got that lead hand low. You can see from Josh Edwards, he has a good rhythm to him and a good level of athleticism and coordination as a heavyweight. You can see that he's not a stiff in there. He's got some good fluidity. And right now he's throwing left uppercuts off the jab. Now a right uppercut. Throwing that right uppercut a little far out with the chin exposed. But against this level opponent, nice 4-punch combination by Josh Edwards off the jab. Throwing that up jab. Hands are pretty low for Josh Edwards. But, he's got good fluidity while doing it. It doesn't look awkward holding his hands low as a heavyweight. And a good physique. He's in good shape in the heavyweight division. It's a new era. It's been a new era in the heavyweight division the last several years where you're not settling for flabby guys as prospects and former football players all the time. But Edwards getting in good uppercuts off his jab. Now he stabs the jab to the body a little bit. Sweeping right hand to the body by Josh Edwards. And, Edwards coming from Texas, his dad was, I don't want to say a wielder, but his dad worked with his hands, a handyman, a man that made his living constructing things, and took Josh with him on certain jobs. I remember Josh telling me and Sean that back in Colorado a few years ago. So Josh, a Texas kid, a good athlete, has some of that blue-collar work ethic, you would think, that he inherited from his dad, and his dad making him work some construction jobs. But good body work right now by Josh Edwards, and then he turns him, sweeps a right hand around the high guard of Ortiz, and Edwards just getting some good work in right now. Switches southpaw, does Josh Edwards, stab jab to the body. And yeah, eventually Josh at 25, if this was a 19-year-old or an 18-year-old looking like this, you'd really, he'd be a mouth-watering prospect. But at 25 years old, he's a solid prospect. You see some tools, you see some upside and talent. Do you see the next heavyweight champion? I don't know about that, but you see a good prospect in the heavyweight division. Right now, he's beginning to meander through this round a little bit. Got his hands low, popping the up jab. And maybe he wants to get some rounds in because it feels like he could run a combination, off his jab anytime he wants against Voris. But instead, he's carrying him a little bit down the stretch of this first round, taking his time. That's it for round one. But yeah, I like Josh Edwards. I remember we went down in Colorado. We talked to Josh, Jamal Harvey, Jamar Talley. And yeah, Josh is a good prospect. A little bit old at 25, but good prospect. Not great size in this division, but then again, this is kind of the size that's starting to maybe it's premature to say it's taken over, but Usyk has been the best heavyweight for a few years now. He's 6'3.5". The best up-and-coming heavyweight is Itauma. He's 6'4". And now Josh Edwards is about 6'3" himself. So maybe it's a return to that size of heavyweight, having a lot of success now, and the 6'6", 6'7", 6'8" guys are, not on their way out, but maybe those guys at this size are the ones that are going to start taking over the division again. I would prefer that in some ways, but the big guys were fun too. Joshua, Fury, and Wilder. Klitschko's, they had nobody to fight, but they were fun. All right. Josh Edwards coming out with his jab again. And, right hand cocked around his chest, left hand, lead hand low, throwing that up jab. He's thrown some good body shots for a heavyweight. I think he could stop Voris with a well-placed, left hook to the body, right hand to the body. I think that's where he could stop Voris kind of at will. He's shooting some uppercuts, takes a step back. Nice step back and good hand speed and coordination there by the heavyweight. Landed something off the jab. Voris tried to step inside of that jab and throw something. Josh with a nice step out of range and then fired a nice quick-handed combination. He switches southpaw, switches back orthodox. Good jab to the body by Josh Edwards. Nice sweeping right hand to the body. Voris didn't like that body shot. Left uppercut, straight right hand. Voris is a little buckled in there. Keeps his hands up. But Edwards against this level of guy could literally do whatever he wants. So this is a guy no disrespect to Voris, but this is a little bit of a heavy bag for him tonight. And he can just explore and get creative and test some things he's been working on. So they're taking a look at a cut above Voris's eye, and Voris is so far earning his money. He hasn't taken a dive on the first hard shot he's taken. He's eaten some uppercuts, eaten the jab, eaten some body shots, so let's give respect to him on that. Double jab, sets up a sweeping right hand to the body. Another jab splits the high guard for Josh Edwards. Another jab. Josh just stepping to him, boom, shooting his up jab from his hip. Lead left hook for Josh Edwards. Oh, counter right hand by Voris. And that's where Golden Boy will have to carefully make sure they start getting guys that are punching back at Josh these next couple of fights, because it looks good, but it looks like something that really needs to be tested with something coming back, because he's leaving his hands low, and he looks comfortable in that stance. He doesn't look awkward in it, but it's got to be put to the test with something coming back. But he fought at a high level in the amateurs, so it's not like, he isn't used to something coming back. But as a pro, right now they're giving him showcase fights, which makes sense. But good double jab, body head, nice jab again by Josh Edwards. Little pep in his step, little bit of bounce. Shoots that up jab again, drawing blood from the right eye of Voris. Double, triple jab by Josh Edwards. Straight right hand lands for Josh Edwards. He got good hand speed and good dexterity as a heavyweight. And that's the plus of being a mid-sized heavyweight like Itauma, Usyk, or himself. Nice lead right hooks out of the southpaw stance. Switches back orthodox. Yeah, the question for this kid this young man's gonna be, size, punch. But you see some tools, man. You see some talent. You see more talent in a lot of dimensions than Richard Torres. But Torres is physically strong as hell, and is an overachiever by nature, and has a ridiculous amount of heart and dog in him, and a method to his madness. He's a bull in a china shop. There's a method to his madness, and he's a southpaw. But Edwards has that more natural, clean boxing skill to him than Richard Torres. You can see that. But that doesn't necessarily mean he's the overall tougher out. Good jab, sweeping right hand to the body by Voris. And I'm surprised Voris has taken some of these sweeping right hands to the body and hasn't taken that old knee. He hasn't. He's earning his money in there, Voris. What's up, Rudolfo Valdez? What's up, the show off? Palm tree again. Kareem Cunningham says, y'all are sleeping on Lubin. Southpaw Boxer says, thank you for your great work. Thank you, Southpaw. C Money, what's up, C Money? What's up, Mr. Swisha? What's up, Mr. Gandhi? Sweet Science Sports says, it's going to be a good fight while it lasts. Vergil is very consistent and durable, and Lubin is chinny and inconsistent. Bad matchup, I think. You will see some good counterpunching from Lubin. I really like that comment. I think that was a strong comment. Brunch Boxing is in the house. What an honor. I'm not comfortable betting on this fight because I have no clue who's going to win. The only thing I'm sure of is that someone will get put on their ass, so I went with that for my sure bet. Got you. So you took the under. But shout out to Brunch Boxing. Subscribe to them if you guys haven't. Shout out to my guys, Matt, Michael, Ezra, who I haven't met, but shout out, fellas. But all right, back to round 3 of this action, and I like what I'm seeing from Josh Edwards. Not overreacting. I like right there. He's punching in between punches in little spots where Voris opens up. And oh damn, did I lose any internet for a minute? Okay. Yeah, he's punching in little spots. Whenever he gets a little chance to punch in between shots, he's showing some good hand speed and combinations. Good left uppercut, sweeping right hook, steps inside, works the free hand to the body. Voris ties him up about 40 seconds into this 3rd round. But yeah, Josh showing me something, Not saying he's the next this or that, but he was good. I like the body work off the jab up top. Up jab up top, bink, bink to the body. The good little combinations. He's throwing combinations at times without a lot on him, but that's showing, a level of craft as a heavyweight prospect and a level of hand speed that you could do something a smaller guy does, like do boom, and then sit down on 1 or 2 of the shots out of the combo. Sweeping left right hand sets up a beautiful left uppercut by Josh Edwards. Here's one critique though, chat. How big of a puncher is he? Because he's hit Voris with some clean hard body shots and some clean uppercuts, right? Lifted his head right up, and Voris hasn't gone anywhere, hasn't been particularly close to going anywhere. But here's the thing. With the kind of hand speed Edwards is showing in the punch selection, uppercuts, switching stances, body, headshots, he might be a guy that hurts you being quicker than 99% of heavyweights in between shots. And Voris isn't opening up a lot. He's taking punishment behind the high guard. And again, the few times he has opened up with something, Edwards has impressed me with his hand speed, punching in between punches. So maybe that's where he could hurt heavyweights. But off the lead, with the guy not getting caught in between and punching off the lead, the power isn't great against the way Voris is holding up. And Voris is taking a lot of hot, heavy shots this round and taking deep breaths. But it's the exhaustion that's beginning to break him down as much as it is the power of Josh Edwards. But Edwards is putting together some nice creative combinations here. Finishing with sweeping right hands to the body, finishing with left uppercuts, punching in combination, and the referee's going to call this off with 20 seconds left. Voris was just becoming a walking punching bag, but I want to give credit to Voris, man. He was durable tonight. He's like, what are you stopping for? I'm earning my money. I know I'm not going to beat this kid, but let me earn my money. I'll take the 6 rounds of it, goddammit. Good stuff by Voris. In terms of just holding up and giving the kid what he needed, giving him rounds. So Voris was bleeding a little bit, nothing too grotesque, but he was durable, tough journeyman vet. But Josh Edwards, good prospect. More, like I said, more natural skill than Richard Torres. It looks cleaner, it looks prettier. And he showed some good tools tonight, man. I like the body work. I like the jab. I like the hand speed. I like the coordination and dexterity. Question marks are his size, his power, and how's he look defensively holding his hands low? How's he with the right hand at the chest and the lead hand low? If you can fight comfortably holding your hands like that against high-level competition, that means you have a really good sense of distance and a good rhythm to your fighting. You trust your reflexes, you trust your sense, your anticipation, and all those kinds of things. That's high-level stuff. Let's see if he looks good holding his hands like that against guys that are really punching back at him. The few times Voris opened up with something, gave him something to punch in between, I liked what I saw. But we'll see. He's a prospect, but he's a prospect, not a suspect. He looks like a prospect more than a suspect. Boxing 9741 said, yo, Sean, do the Edgar Berlanga impression. Come on, Jake! Come on, Jake! All right, that's the new Edgar Berlanga. That's how he talked. Why was he talking like that in the video? It was weird. I wanted the classic Brooklyn Edgar Berlanga one. Yo, Jake, you a bitch. Fuck out of here. Fuck is you talking about? You want to fight a real boxer? Ain't 70 years old? Call me. Fuck. Insert word that I can't say. That's what Edgar Berlanga. You want an authentic Edgar Berlanga? I believe that's the vocab he would have used. But there you go. So Kalani, what's up, Kalani? 1992 says, turn down the lights, sipping on wild turkey. Sean, he knows his passion in life. I appreciate that, man. Mr. Grandi says, I don't see anything special from Edwards. I'm not saying special, but he's a prospect. He's a good prospect. Hey, heavyweight division used to be filled with former football players and tubby European guys and old American guys like Tony Thompson. And everybody sucked, basically, except the Klitschko's, who were great. And then David Haye, who was really good, but too small. And so I'm old enough to remember that horrible era of heavyweight boxing. So when we actually get guys that look like athletes that can throw some combinations and got some moves and everything, I'm happy to see another heavyweight prospect. And I'm also happy to see my Edgar Berlanga impersonations going over really well in the chat. Okay, good. That's great. Yeah, what's up, Tay Day? Shout out to my guy, Tay Day. Joe Magana, good to see you, brother. Lubin, Boachuk, and Majimov's tough. To your point, Joe, I want to give credit to Ortiz tonight. 3 top 10 154-pounders, okay? Boachuk, Majimov, and now Erickson Lubin. Look, we're myself included, we're always in a rush for those elite fights. The fights that, are you a pound for pounder? Are you unification, pound for pound, that kind of stuff. 2, 3 division world titles, all that stuff. But there's something to be said for what Ortiz has been doing these last 3 fights. Consistently fighting quality opposition in your weight class. Top 10 guy after top 10 guy. that's good stuff by Vergil Ortiz. It's funny, though, that Xander Zayas is on his way to 2 belts while Vergil is, going to be 28 and still just has an interim, and now Xander's going to have 2 belts. But that's all. It's just funny between the two of them, the way Xander... That just brings me to Xander Zayas for a minute. Vintage Top Rank with this move to fight Abbas Barao. How do we say his name? Is it Abbas, Barao? Anyways, let me put respect on however you say his name, because he did his thing against Yoenis Tellez. I made sure to rewatch that fight today before I did the live. And he's just a very sturdy, strong fighter. He showed an extra gear with that knockdown in the 12th to take the title. Well, he didn't need that knockdown to win the fight, but he showed some good explosiveness and combination punching there. But overall, over 12 rounds, he's not that explosive a guy. And I think Xander Zayas beats him with his feet as much as anything. Because what I saw from Barao, not stiff would be he's not stiff because he throws some nice combinations once he gets where he wants to go. He's very patient and efficient on defense. He doesn't feint really from what I saw. He doesn't have a lot of defensive maneuvers and head movement and a shoulder roll and all that. It was pretty much the high guard. But he had a really good sense of timing from the aspect of just knowing when to catch, and then knowing the perfect time to take that 1 or 2 steps inside and then getting his clean work off in close. He was a very good inside fighter. But anyways, I didn't see a guy that's going to beat Xander Zayas. I see a guy that Xander's going to be able to step around, and create off of. And it'll be a tough fight. Barao is a tough motherfucker. He's going to be there all night and make it a fight. But I think Xander's footwork's going to be too much for that guy. And Xander's good. Xander isn't the puncher that Trinidad and Cotto were, but he might be more intelligent than them, or on pace to be more intelligent, because Cotto was a little bit smarter than Trinidad. Overall, Trinidad was better than Cotto. And Xander doesn't have the electricity in his left hand that Cotto had. He's not the electric puncher with both hands that Trinidad is, but he's a hell of a thinker. And he might, in the long run, have better conditioning over 12 rounds than Cotto. But I don't know. He still plateaus at some point in his fights. He still isn't a guy that's quite as good in 10, 11, 12 as he is in 1, 2, and 3. But I still don't see him fading as bad as Cotto did in spots. So we'll see. But anyway, Xander's going to beat Barao. And it's just funny that he's about to have 2 belts while Vergil is still the interim champ. And it's a vintage Top Rank move, and I get it. They're fucked right now without a network, and Michaela had to fight on Tubi and everything. But what do you do? I'm giving a salute to the matchmakers at Top Rank and to Xander. And this is what I mean by Xander's really smart. I'm rewatching the Tellez and Barao fight, and I'm seeing that Xander pulled up ringside to that fight. And I'm like, look at this kid, man. He's a hot shot. He's calling his own shots. He pulled up on Fundora like a gentleman, but with all the smoke. And he pulled up on Fundora, hey, I want the mandatory. I'm really about this. Hey, I'm only 21, 22 years old. I'm not jaded by the era of PBC and Top Rank. They don't do business together. I'm showing up at your title defense against Cordell Booker in Vegas. I'm showing up yoked up in the black tee, calling you out respectfully, showing respect to the sister Gabriella, respect to the Fundora family, but I want the smoke. You're not going to give me the smoke, give me the belt. And he took the belt vacant. He followed through. He fights for the vacant belt. Now he's on to belt number 2 at 22. Salute to Benny Blanco from the Bronx. Salute to Xander Zayas. Always been a great kid. And for Top Rank, because Top Rank, you can't take a step backward. You need your kid to grow into whatever upside he has, whatever potential he has. And he's a good fighter, but he's not ready. You're not really ready to make the Ortiz fight. You're not ready to make the Fundora fight. You know, Bakram is a much more difficult unification than Barao, or Barrow. But so what does Top Rank do? Our kid's not really ready for the elite, but we don't want to take steps back. Oh, Barrow upset Tellez. Boom, let's do it. 2 belts on our kid. Put the fight in Puerto Rico. Bada bing, bada boom. That's moving the right direction for Xander Zayas, and I think he wins that fight, and he'll probably still the Top Rank will probably still keep him on a leash a little bit away from Fundora and Vergil, but he's gonna be a dog begging to be let off and have those fights right away. But I'm excited about the future of Xander Zayas, if you can't tell. So, Sean, can you do a Terrence Crawford impression? I could, but I don't want to do it right now. I don't want to do it right now. If I feel it at some point, it might come on, but I'm not feeling it right now. Xander is literally the luckiest guy at 154. Brooklyn Boy says it's that Top Rank formula. I got no pushback against what you're saying, but I'm kind of admiring it this time. Like, wow, in this loaded division full of killers, you found a way to get your 22-year-old who's not really ready yet for those killers to have more belts than the rest of them. That's kind of good stuff. And that's Top Rank doing the old playbook that hasn't produced the results commercially that they would hope. But by the book, they still move the way 2 + 2 is supposed to be 4. Like, hey, we got a vacant belt on our 22-year-old that we got big plans for, big picture plans for. And then we got the weakest title holder in the division in a unification. We'll give him some money. We'll bring him to Puerto Rico. Now our kid's got 2 belts. And once upon a time, that stuff with Oscar De La Hoya, with other guys, that really worked. That was a blueprint that made a boxing star. Maybe not a crossover star, but ensured a certain level of boxing notoriety and prestige. And unfortunately for Top Rank, once the explosion of the Jake Paul era started and just social media in general, and once, you know, the dumb it's not even fair to say the dumb shit took hold, because the dumb shit took hold in our culture a long time ago before I was even born. And it was mixed with a lot of good shit too. I don't want to say it was all dumb shit, but for lack of better nuance, once the dumb shit in society took a new level and social media and everything, traditionalism was passe. And it's like, no, that's not how you make a star. You make, Gervonta Davis hasn't unified any titles, and he's going to outsell every kid that you put 2, 3, 4 belts on your roster. And, but so that's not as effective a strategy as it once was. But in this scenario with Xander Zayas, it's kind of cool they're sticking to the old playbook, get a couple of belts, go after the weakest belt holders, and start to build up that credibility for the long-term goals of your fighter. So I like it. So it's Matt Borgeson saying, can we talk about how smart Xander's team is? Yeah, but here's the thing, Matt. Has a hand in that team. He pulled up on the Barreau-Tejas fight. He was already a step ahead of us. He's like, fuck that. I'm picking off whoever. Look, there's a lot of politics involved. Me and Vergil, we're building that up into a big fight. Fundora, I already tried that route. It's not happening. Let me pull up at the WBA trinkets on the line. I'm pulling up. I want more hardware. And he did that. And now he secured himself that bout, it looks like. And good that it's not just his team, it's Xander himself taking an active hand in his career. So salute to him. But I'm ready to watch Amari Jones. That's part of why I wasn't lazy tonight and got on the live early. I've covered Amari Jones a lot, having covered Devin Haney a lot in his rise. And Amari was always in the gym. I saw him and Fernando Vargas Jr. spar. And I interviewed Amari many times over the years. I just saw Amari at the Junior Olympics over the summer here in Vegas at the Vegas Convention Center. He told me that he was signing with Golden Boy. We did an interview that I never dropped, but I still have it right here. And Amari, coming out of Oakland, has a lot of tools. He has a lot of tools. He's 6 foot tall in the middleweight division. He has an excellent jab. He has good punching power, good hand speed, good tools. My only question about Amari, I always saw from him in sparring, not always saw from him in sparring, but in pockets, little lapses, little punches he shouldn't be getting caught with. And in particular, he had this weird habit in the clinches of falling asleep in little spots. And that's where he'd be getting snuck. He'd be getting snuck with shots he shouldn't be getting hit with. He'd be in the pocket, kind of bullshitting for a second, and he'd get hit with something, and it's like, it was dumb shit he'd get hit with. It wouldn't be the stuff on the outside. It wouldn't be him getting counterpunched. It wouldn't be someone pulling over the top of his jab, although that would happen sometimes too when he got a little lazy with his jab. But that's the main flaw I saw from Amari as an 18, 19, 17-year-old. It wasn't the size. It wasn't the jab. It wasn't the tools. It wasn't the pop and the power. He checks boxes. It was little moments where he would be the, you have the sum is greater than the parts. Sometimes he'd leave me with a feeling that if he didn't tighten up little things like that, he could be the inverse of that. He could be the sum that's less than the whole of the parts, because he's got the parts. He's got, again, the size, the jab, and the tools, and good power. Let's just see if he can put it all together. We see that happen in sports. The guy's got the jump shot, the athleticism, the handle, but there's this little certain something missing from the recipe, sometimes that you can't even quite put your finger on, and that's all I wonder with Amari. But Amari's 23 now. He's got his promotional situation situated with Golden Boy, and now I'm looking forward to seeing him take off. My guy Sam Gordon, who loves boxing, covers for the Warriors, travels with the team for the San Francisco Chronicle. He went out to Vergil Hunter's gym and saw Amari spar, said he looked very sharp, and here he is in the ring now. So let me get to a couple super chats real quick. Matt Borgeson saying, are they looking to fight Fundora for undisputed Mexico versus Puerto Rico? No, I don't think. I think the more likely fight is Fundora and Vergil. I think that's the more likely fight. You see Golden Boy and PBC discussing that Mario Barrios Ryan Garcia fight. They need to be bedfellows. Anybody who wants to stand a chance at the on the incoming TKO Turkey takeover, they better start being strange bedfellows. But I wouldn't hold my breath for that. But it does look like Golden Boy and PBC, they did do Canelo Berlanga, Canelo Charlo, Ryan, and Tank. They're talking about Barrios and Ryan Garcia. So I think the more likely fight, Matt, it's gonna be Fundora and Vergil. I don't think you ever see Fundora fight Xander Zayas. I think the window for that fight to happen passed. Xander pulled up, wanted the shot, wasn't clout chasing, really wanted the fight. It didn't happen. And I'm not sure it ever happens. I think the likely fight that would happen is if Vergil can beat Fundora. And if Virgil's going to fight Fundora next, which I think has a chance of happening, who else? If you're PBC, if you're PBC, you could match. If you want to keep it in-house, keep doing all that bullshit that they all do, then you can do Fundora and Jesus Ramos, which isn't a gross fight. Especially if Ramos looks good against Shane Mosley Jr. It's not a bad fight. You don't kick it out of bed, but it doesn't get your dick hard either. But I think the play. So what I'm getting at, the reason why I said that awkward sentence was, hopefully they're thinking of putting Fundora and Vergil together. I am not surprised that Team Ortiz, and I get it, Ortiz fans, this is after Boots already turned down an Ortiz fight from Turkey. I know, I get it. But I suspected that Team Ortiz would start to throw cold water on a Boots fight once it really got time to make it happen in the aftermath of tonight's fight if he wins. And I think the play is, if you're Team Ortiz, would be get the Fundora fight next, forget Boots. It's not Boots has a great chance of beating you, and he doesn't bring a title to anything right now, and he's not a huge attraction, and he's not technically a champion at 154. So why are you're probably an underdog in that fight. I love that fight, but I'm keeping it, that perspective open. So do the Fundora fight for the full WBC title, and then after that, you do the Xander fight. You don't do the Boots fight. You duck the Boots fight, and you do the Xander fight for 3 belts. Mexico, Puerto Rico, an easier fight probably. And that's what I think we get. I think you're more likely to see Xander and Vergil than you ever are to see Xander and Fundora. Alonjan Williams, thank you for the super chat. Says, do you think Crawford beats Janibek? I do think Crawford beats Janibek, but I'll get right back to that in a minute. Amari Jones is here in round 1. I do think Crawford beats Janibek, but it's an interesting fight because Janibek has longer arms than Canelo, punches at long range, whereas Canelo was more of a mid-range puncher where he gets his leverage on his power. Janibek has a long, stinging left hand. He's a southpaw. He's hungry, unlike Canelo was. So I think it's a good fight. I like the history of the fight. Crawford trying to win the middleweight championship. That satiates a level of boxing nerddom in me that I didn't think Crawford had in him or cared to have after making $1 zillion. But apparently he may have that, and so I like the fight. But let's get to Amari coming out, switching stances, being busy, getting off first, and now stepping around a little bit out of the southpaw stance. And not super sharp from Amari right away. Not that, perfect, crisp, super fast punches coming out. Just getting warmed up here in the first round. And we'll see how Amari looks. Staying in the southpaw stance is Amari, working the jab, head and body. Not showing super fast hand speed here is Amari Jones. Feinting a little bit, shoots the jab out of the southpaw stance again. Tries to hook the jab a little bit there, falls short. Gamor moving around to his right. Gamor looks like Arthur Abraham. He looks like a broke ass Arthur Abraham. So no disrespect. I'm just I'm being funny here, trying to be. But he does remind me of Arthur Abraham a little bit. All right, Jones switching back orthodox, drops the lead hand a little bit, and not accurate right now from Amari Jones. Not super sharp with his punches in round 1. And his balance, not the best in round 1 either. Lands a thud, but his hands look heavy. That jab knocked Gamor's head back. Now he hooks off the jab. That knocks the head back of Gamor. 30 seconds left in the round. Amari looks heavy-handed, though. I expected a little bit more of that crisp hand speed from him in round 1. And again, his base is not off balance, but not perfectly balanced either. But good jab right there, and then pulls away from the pull right hand of Gamor. But I love Amari. Been covering Amari since he was a kid and a teenager. But I gotta keep it real on the channel. That wasn't a super sharp first round from Amari Jones. He definitely won the round, but I didn't think he looked that sharp that round. Anglo Vox says, Sean, do you see Murtazaliev or the Zayas Barao winner getting to play in the Boots Vergil sweepstakes? Yeah, I think Xander's going to turn into the more appealing option for Team Ortiz. That's what I think is about to happen. I think they're going to go, do we want to fight a kid who's 23 and has 2 belts, or do we want to fight, this grown-ass in his absolute prime, Jaron Ennis, who doesn't even have a belt, doesn't sell, again, this is the shit that is hurt boxing, and it's not that I'm advocating Vergil Ortiz to do this, but I'm being realistic with my thought process about the situation is what I'm doing. And I don't know, man. I wasn't surprised that Team Ortiz threw cold water on the fight once we got to fight week. And that's not a good sign if you were hoping to see Vergil in boots, because if you're going to see Vergil in boots next, this is where you go into full swing promotional mode. This is the commercial for Vergil in boots next, and that ain't what you're hearing. And that makes sense too if they're trying to do the fight without Turkey. Hearn doesn't want one of his prized assets in Ennis with strings attached to Turkey. No, this is my thing. And that means now they got to eat off of what they kill, which is what, of course, I advocate for. I think that's the right thing to do. But fighters want to get paid. And Vergil's going to go, nah, man, when I was ready to fight you, that bag was way bigger. Now you want me to fight. Now you're ready to fight, and the bag's a lot smaller. I suspect Team Ortiz won't be interested in that. So Amari landing a chopping right hand in close there. We're a minute into the second round. Jones still trying to find his accuracy this round on the front foot. Gamore, jittery in there for, a little. No man that gets in there is scared. That's a strong word, but he's a little cautious and fearful of Amari Jones. I think the length and the power is a little bit daunting. He's moving without his feet underneath him at times, Gamore, not into a position where he could counter. But now he's starting to work his hands a little bit here midway through the second round, trying to settle himself down against Amari Jones, who again, is still trying to find that accuracy. High guard from Amari Jones. Nice jab, hard right hand over the top by Amari Jones. You can see the power. That is where he looks impressive, is once the shots are connected. He looks like he's got some power here in this fight. Lead left hook just off the mark for Amari Jones. Amari punching with bad intentions. He wants to he's trying to knock Gamore out. He's got knockout written on some of these shots. He's punching with bad intentions. But he has enough length and tools, and I know he's got a good jab that maybe settle down and mix in the shots. Sit down on some of them. Use the speed on other shots. But 30 seconds left on the second round here. Amari just stepping to him. Gets underneath. Nice left hook to the body by Amari Jones there. Switches southpaw. And good. So Amari showing good defense there. A little slow. And so he misses the shot, but then he covers up with good defensive responsibility on the counterpunching from Gamore. 10 seconds left. Amari in that shoulder roll. Looks a little vulnerable in that look, but Gamore not making him pay for it at all. And it's going to be 2-zip for Amari Jones. Gamore touching him with a right hand there at the belt, but I expected to see a little bit more from Amari Jones. Expect him to look a little bit sharper than we've seen so far through 2. Damn, so we got 350 people in here. That's what's up. Let's see. What's up, Maria C? Matt Borgeson says, hot take, I think Xander can outbox Boots. Yeah, I mean, not out of the question, man. Xander's good. Xander just lacks that heavy-handedness that you see from great Puerto Rican fighters. And he lacks a little bit of that X factor, that special. But I think he's smart and he has educated feet and good hand speed. And I think he's a technician, man. And I think if he sits down, I saw in little spots in the Garcia Perez fight where he could have really hurt Garcia Perez if he found the right opening in between with his left hook. And I saw in little spots, he gets good leverage on that left hook. I mean, that's the signature Puerto Rican shot. I don't know, man. I think he might still be growing into himself a little bit. Maybe he put some guys down when he gets to 160, but I don't know. He may never just be that kind of puncher, but usually born with that or you're not. I mean, Cotto had it from day one with the left hand. But I don't think that's out of the question. I would favor Boots right now, but Xander is more defensively responsible than Boots, and I think he projects to have a higher IQ than Boots. So we'll see. But Boots is Boots, man. There's chinks in that armor, but there's a lot of armor. And there's just a lot of things he can do. He's such a punctuator. He's vulnerable for this shot or that shot, and you touch him with it, but he's gonna usually get the last reply with his punch selection, speed, power, creativity. And we're starting to learn more and more he really does have a good chin, Ennis. And that makes up for his defensive lapses sometimes. But then again, who's it been tested against? So I hear you on that. But Amari's starting to land some crunching shots over the top. He landed a looping right hand about 30 seconds ago. Gamore has a lot of respect for Amari's power. You could see he's weary of the punching power. And Amari, he's punching with the kind of conviction that he wants a highlight reel shot. And sometimes you don't get it punching like that, but good jab by Amari. Pulls it out of range to make Gamore miss his right hand over the top. Fights in the center of the ring. Amari's a little too slow with his pull counter over the top of the jab. But yeah, you'd like to see Jones settle down behind his jab a little bit more. You could tell from his energy, yeah, he's trying to knock him out with a big shot. Loops a sweeping left hand over the top, And that's allowing Gamor to see these shots coming a little bit. It's like Amari's anxious to hit him with something big. Gamor bending down into the ropes, but Amari inaccurate. Amari's launching bombs at his head, but missing to the body a little bit. He's just, the punch placement isn't great right now. Good pull right hand for Amari. That hurts Gamor. Follows it up with a left hook, right hand. Switches southpaw, throws a left hand bomb. Sweeps a right hook to the body. Hard left hook to the body. Right hand over the top. Down goes Gamor. You can see Gamor was really worried about that power and was kind of fighting scared. And that right hand, Gamor doesn't want to be in there. Gamor doesn't want to be in there with the long range punching power of Amari Jones. Good left hook to the body by Amari Jones. And a chopping right hand inside. Another chopping right hand inside. Left hook. Gamor bending down. Almost not even keeping his eyes up. Gamor goes down again. And the ref just needs to stop it. And he does. Gamor did not want to be in that ring anymore. It's a stoppage in the third round for Oakland's Amari Jones, who has power, has length, but he needs to be sharper than he was tonight. And he got the knockout he was looking for, but I didn't love the balance, the punch placement and accuracy and the hand speed. He would be out of position sometimes, but was defensively responsible. He got those hands up quick whenever he was off the target and something was coming back. He's a prospect, but at 23, he's a prospect, but I didn't love the hand speed, the balance, and the accuracy tonight, but he punches hard, and I think there is some upside there for sure. I think that some of that stuff could be smoothed out, but he's a little bit raw right now, rough around the edges as a prospect, but he's got power. He's got power, and he has good size in this division. So Matt Borgeson, thank you for the super chat. Brother says, Amari Jones smothers his work, inaccurate boxer. Yeah, I mean, he was just a little wild and inaccurate. I think part of it was he was punching with such conviction and less technical precision, you know. Yeah, he's rough around the edges. I don't know if we see a future world champion, but if you got some things to work with, man. The power did look good tonight. And again, the length and the temperament. He was mean in there. He was spiteful in there. So I think Amari is a prospect, but didn't show enough tonight that he's worthy of blue chip prospect status. Didn't show that. So I'm happy that my wife is in the chat. Thank you everyone for saying hi to Samantha. So Samantha's upstairs with the kid. They're doing their thing. So, yeah, my boy Sam Gordon from the San Francisco Chronicle just texted me. Amari. Yeah, Sam was covering. So, yeah, now he's got, who is that? Rick Mirrigan is his manager. So, he's got his promotional situation. He's got Vergil Hunter as a trainer. Rick Mirrigan as a manager. Golden Boy as a promoter. So, Amari's on the track now. He's going to get significant fights and opportunities. But, you know, he's got some rough edges he's going to have to smooth out in his game. But the power was there. And when you got power and you got size, you got something to work with. So, no, Steve Santiago, you're thinking of Omari Jones from Orlando. I'm talking about Amari Jones from Oakland. I know I have fun with that. That they're basically, I think Omari's at 54 and Amari's at 160, but it is funny that they're almost in the same division and there's an Omari Jones and an Amari Jones. I think Omari is the brighter prospect, hence the Olympic medal and all that went along with it. And I was surprised how good Omari did in the Olympics, because when me and Sean went down to Colorado to talk with all the Olympic team, he didn't jump out in my page as anything special. And then in winning the medal, he looked good, but in his pro debut, maybe it was the Penny Hardaway shorts, I don't know, he looked better than I thought he was going to look. And he raised my ceiling of expectations for him as a pro now. I think I'm high on Omari Jones. So, No Dice asked Sean, who beats Ricardo Lopez? You mean Finito? Ooh. I mean, the first name that came to mind was Chocolatito, but I think he would have beat Chocolatito. I don't know, man. I mean, he technically fought at 108, right? And Inoue was at 108, so maybe Inoue. Junto Nakatani, yeah. I mean, I think Ricardo was too small for Junto, though. I don't think Junto was ever as low as 108. That's where Ricardo maxed out at, right? Was 108. I mean, he basically fought his whole career at 105 and then finished against Rosendo Alvarez at 108. So Ishmael Bermudez, thank you for the super chat, my brother. Says, hey, Sean, what's your thoughts on the Haney versus Norman fight? Well, how much time you got, buddy? Because I think too much of that fight. Don't get me started. I saw a tweet. There was this podcast, The Boxing Rant, Vince Cummings. Shout out to those guys. Not throwing shade on them. And Vince was like, oh, I can't wait until we have to opine on how great Devin Haney is when he beats a painfully average Brian Norman by unanimous decision. And I said, damn, what a buzzkill, because myself and everyone I know is so excited for that fight. And, is that ultimately what we're getting excited about? Is Brian Norman, with his colorful Atlanta swag and personality and accent, is he selling us something he can't really live up to? And Devin Haney, with the much more established pedigree and decorated professional resume and accomplishments, he's just simply going to outbox the less skilled fighter and win a unanimous decision, and on we go. Because I know I'm not alone. I know the boxing heads are with me. We're juiced. I'm juiced. I know, on paper they're both undefeated, and a lot of people will scoff at that because the Ryan Garcia fight. But on paper, they're both undefeated. How often do you get two undefeated American fighters fighting in a 50-50 fight in their physical primes at 26 and 24 years old in an actual at the sports book 50-50 fight? So I'm extremely juiced for this fight. I'm leaning towards Brian Norman. I saw something in Norman last year against Giovan Santillan, and I get it. Santillan's a come-forward guy. Sasaki's a come-forward guy. Who the fuck was Derek Cuevas anyways? I get it. But I thought Santillan, that fight was set up for Santillan to win. And Santillan beat the shit out of Alexis Roca, who ain't bad. Alexis Roca, not quite a contender status level fighter, but ain't bad. Is a good fighter in his own right. And had momentum. Had just beat up Blair Cobbs. And Santillan ran through him. And Santillan is a grinder. Santillan is all dog. He was fighting in San Diego. I pulled up expecting him to grind Norman down a little bit. And Norman knocked him out in an incredible fashion. Put on a performance that night I will never forget from ringside. And I said, it wasn't like, oh, he's the next pound for pound this. Oh, I just saw the next great this and that. But I saw something, and I said, no, this guy's got something. And then he fights Cuevas, and I go, uh-oh, the first round or two, he's not seeing Cuevas' left hook coming, and I saw his knees buckle, and I asked him in the post-fight of the Cuevas fight, I covered that fight too, and he said, no, my knees didn't buckle. Yes, they did. But I saw him make an adjustment, and I saw him make an adjustment that my old trainer, Pat Barry, told me a long time ago when I was 13. And he said, when in doubt, jab. When you're tired, jab. When you need an adjustment, jab. The jab is your best friend. Find something with your jab. The jab is the answer when you're running out of answers in there. If you're bankrupt with creativity and answers, go back to the jab. And I saw Norman do that. I saw him go to his jab against Cuevas in the second round. And by the next round, he had knocked him out with a jab. And then Sasaki, who has no defense, relatively speaking, is a two-fisted face-first brawler. But that motherfucker throws heat. And that motherfucker puts you in the kind of fight where it's kill or be killed. And Brian Norman almost killed that dude. And here's the thing. Is Haney the more skilled boxer, particularly at long range? Yes, he is. His feint's better. I think Norman has an underrated jab, but Haney's jab is better from what I've seen on tape. It's not more powerful, though. He can't knock you out with a jab. Although he did break Zarur Abdullahev's nose with a jab, so let's give Devin respect for that. But what I'm getting at is I think Norman has enough skill to go along with real athleticism and explosiveness and a lot of power that I think he can catch up to Haney, who will have the edge early in this fight and perhaps stop him at some point. And here's the thing, though. Haney feels like if I take away the left hook from this guy, I'm going to beat him. And he might be right. And I interviewed Norman here on the channel, and I talked about Haney taking away the left hook. Can you beat him with something else? He goes, he can take away the left hook. I'm going to knock him out with the right hand. That sounds good. Someone send me, I don't know if I've really seen Brian Norman knock someone out with his right hand. All the fights I've been watching recently of Norman is him using the right hand. It's always a red flag for me when guys don't have a great straight right hand, because then that means you can only be but so successful at long distance if you don't have a great straight right hand. And Norman, I see, he likes to sweep the shot a lot. Sweep the shot and then finish with a power one. Sweep the shot and then come with the hook. And most of the special offense I see from Norman comes from the left hand. It's the power jab, it's the jab itself, and it's the hook. And I haven't seen him put people to sleep with the right hand. I haven't seen him drop a lot of guys with the right hand. The only time I saw his right hand get busy was in close range, where, again, he's sweeping it or throwing the uppercut. I haven't seen that long-range weapon, and Devin Haney has that long-range weapon. So if you're picking Haney, that's why I'm so excited for the fight. I could go back and forth all day and all night. I could see Haney outboxing him in the center of the ring, surprising Brian Norman with his power, having his body and his legs underneath him at this weight in a way it never quite has been before. And I also could see Haney with just a lot in the tank for this fight. Having a lot, that extra gear of motivation and ambition. This is his chance to not only get back to where he was before Ryan, but get back to where he was before Ryan and then some. And really pull off something a lot of people think he's not going to pull off in a couple of weeks. And really have that you may not like me, but you will respect me moment in his career. And I can see him dropping Brian Norman. Brian Norman jumps into his punches a fair number of times in his style. And you could see him jumping in, boom, meeting force with force and going down on the right hand. But ultimately, as much as my head says, you know what, Haney might just outbox him. Don't get romantic here. The name of this is the sweet science. Skills pay the bills. Don't let the new flavor of the month, don't let the new energy that Brian's bringing into the game excite you too much. Don't fall in love with this new guy and the power and all that. Haney in 12. Haney outboxes him over 12. That's the smart, logical boxing pick. And yeah, Norman's got underrated skills, underrated timing, but it's essentially the boxer versus the puncher. And more times than not, the boxer licks the puncher. That's how that goes. But so my head will say all that, but my gut, something in my gut tells me the South got something to say. Like something in my gut tells me there's something like I saw that night in San Diego. The sum is greater than the parts. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. There's something about this guy. He's got better skills than people think he has, and he's a rising tide. He's the one carrying momentum into this fight. So I give Brian Norman the edge. But if Devin pulls this off, man, he's a Hall of Famer. He's and that's what that guy with the tweet was talking about. I can't wait for everyone to opine about the greatness of Devin Haney after he beats a very average guy who hasn't beaten anybody in Brian Norman. Maybe that cynical take is closer to reality than the exciting, undefeated 50-50 matchup between two American champions than we're all anticipating. Maybe that's the bitter, ugly truth is Haney is just going to outbox him over 12 and on to the next. But I think Brian Norman represents something that might even be needed and is a new energy. Like a lot of people are just expecting more of the same. It's the Haney, Shakur, Tiafimo, and Tank and Ryan Garcia. And, these guys have been holding the spotlight for half a decade now with mixed results to say the least. Like, Gervonta looks like he's done, practically. Ryan maybe will finally win his first world title against Mario Barrios, maybe, if that fight is even what's really going to happen next. Shakur's had uneven performances, and in his most recent fight against Zepeda, shut nothing to critique there. He's coming off a very strong performance. Tio has accomplished more than all of them technically by being lineal in 2 divisions, and Devin's been champion in 2 divisions and done a lot. But overall, I think it's fair to say they haven't quite delivered what you would have hoped, as each of them near 30 years old. You compare them with the eras of the De La Hoya eras and the Leonard eras and those, and even the Fab Four at featherweight with Pacquiao and Morales and Barrera. Those guys put in a lot more work and gave us a lot more memories in comparison. Not that they haven't put in work and given us memories. They have. But Brian Norman, he represents. Brian Norman echoed my sentiments when he goes, "You guys are always trying to be like Floyd. The game needs something else." And people go, "Well, he's wearing a Marvin Hagler war hat." But that's more honoring. That's paying homage. That's a salute to the past. Bernard Hopkins did it when he was getting ready to knock out Trinidad. He didn't think he was Marvin Hagler, but he's giving he's saying, "I'm from that cloth. I'm from that old school cloth. I'm saluting that era because I admire it, and it's in my game." And people say he talks like Roy Jones. I just think he happens to speak that way. I just think they're both Southern dudes. And he has his own swag apart from Roy Jones. Roy Jones was a little bit more serious than Brian Norman. Brian Norman is smiling and joking at a much younger age than Roy Jones ever did. Roy Jones had that swag and that accent and everything, but he was dead serious. And Brian Norman's more of a lighthearted, humorous guy. And he's bringing something different. Everything now is just about 5 division this and 10, 12, going quadruple platinum. And but everybody does the coach speak. Even Bud and Canelo and all of them and Usyk, I'm here, I'm prepared for the fight, and I'm here to win a good, and he's going to bring his best, I'm going to bring my best. Brian Norman is the embodiment in boxing of what Andre 3000 said at the Source Awards in '95. The South got something to say, meaning something different to say, a different flavor to bring to the game. And I'm embracing what Brian Norman's bringing to the game. So I think if he wins, it represents a new tone, a new energy in the sport. And hey, you guys have been deservedly holding the spotlight in America. Tank, Ryan, Shakur, but here's something new. Here's a new flavor for the fans to try out. And if he's good enough to beat Devin Haney, he's going to have to be elite probably, or at least whatever is right a centimeter below elite. He's going to have to be really fucking good or actually great to beat Devin Haney. And if he is, to go along with his personality, I think boxing's got a new star. And that's a good thing. But it might just be Haney solidifying that he is elite and that he is a great fighter. Love him, hate him, like him, dislike him. That's that. He beats Brian Norman to become 3-division champ and rack up his 6th world title, and beating an undefeated puncher whose resume is thin but has been impressing most people with the eye test, not everybody. Then I think you gotta rate it pretty high. So let me see. I got a super chat from my man Matt Borgeson again. Says, "I think we forget Ryan Garcia and Haney had amateur history. Norman and Haney don't. It's not the same kind of situation." No, maybe, here's my best case scenario. Maybe Haney and Norman are about to do something special in 2 weeks, and they're going to have to fight more than once. And a lot of boxing's best rivalries, they happen organically. We gotten so used to, with Mayweather, Pacquiao, and even back in the day, De La Hoya, Trinidad was like that. Years and years and years of buildup. But sometimes, kind of out of nowhere, you throw 2 guys together and they make magic happen. And it's not like sparks are coming off the screen just yet with Haney and Norman. They haven't had that kind of magic contrast, but there's smoke there. There's a little fire that could build. It all depends on what they bring to Riyadh. If Norman is absolutely resolute and and staunch in his belief that he is knocking Devin the fuck out, that's going to bring the most conflict out of Haney. If they bring the most confrontation out of each other in Riyadh, because they're both so stubborn and so sure of themselves, Haney so sure of himself that he's the elite fighter and you're not, and Norman's so sure that I'm gonna knock you out, I'm gonna touch your chin and put you to sleep, then that's gonna clash. And I love the natural contrast between them. Devin Haney is a little bit of he's the elitist. He's the coastal elite, right? He's they talk about the coastal elites in California and New York. He's from California. His dad made a lot of money, so he comes from money in that regard. And he has that entitlement that a great fighter has. They believe, I want the world, Chico, and everything in it. They believe it's almost their birthright to rack up the hardware, get all the money, get the accolades. That's what I was put on this earth to do. They have that entitlement. I don't even mean it in a negative way. I think it's something that accompanies great athletes. And it could work against you. If you're too humble, like Brian Norman, then that means Devin Haney is someone who attaches his identity to what he does as a fighter. And every fighter does, but I mean on a level where it's almost the whole of who he is, right? And he bases his worth on being undefeated, on being a great fighter. Brian Norman, he might be a little bit more, well, even if I lose my O and I lose my belt, I'm still funny. I'm still cool. I can still go back to the South in my gym and talk with my boys and still be Brian Norman Jr. And in a way, that's an advantage for Haney. That was an advantage for Floyd Mayweather. Someone like Ricky Hatton. Ricky Hatton could lose, still go back to me pub. Still people still love him, have a pint with the lad, and all that. Floyd Mayweather's like, I can't look myself in the mirror if I'm not 50-0. And I'm not the baddest motherfucker that ever did it. That's how I go to sleep at night, And so I say all that to say Haney's more of the elitist. He's the thoroughbred. He's the elitist. Norman is the country boy, the everyman. He's just some country strong Georgia boy. And he's embracing that role. And that's why he's a little bit maybe the baby face to Haney's heel. Haney's the Triple H. I am the game. Like I won all the belts. We didn't have to sign with Top Rank long term. I played this game and made a bunch of money. I'm already a borderline Hall of Famer at 26. I am the game, right? And Brian Norman's like Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's that Southern boy who just wants to stomp a mud hole in somebody and win the strap, right? And shit. So there's that natural contrast between them. The coastal thoroughbred against the Georgia dog, and the puncher against the boxer, and the dad who did Bill Haney, who's slick and can be articulate and talk circles around you when he wants to, against Brian Norman Sr., just straight up country guy. And I think there's potential magic there. If they both fight to the best of their abilities, then Devin's going to be sharp as a tack. He's going to be landing sharp shots. He's going to be boxing beautifully in the center of the ring. And then if Norman fights to the best of his ability and can hold up, isn't chinny, because I don't see a granite chin from Norman, but I see a bend but don't break chin, a bend but don't break defense, a guy who takes punches, who you can buckle. I've seen that knee buckle. He went down against Boca Chica. But he looks also like the kind of guy who takes the punches better as the fight goes on, once he breaks a sweat and gets his legs underneath him. And so I think Norman, if he can adjust the way I think he can adjust, then you're going to have a seesaw fight where Haney gets off to a lead, Norman has to adjust, and then maybe Norman stops him late, and you're like, wow, what a fight. They need to do that again someday. And in that scenario, Haney might wind up winning over more haters in defeat than he ever did in victory. But yeah, and now we're getting ready for this co-main event to kick off between Darius Fulgham, who lost a really, really good-ass fight earlier this year to Beck the Bully. I covered that fight here in Vegas. I think that was the weekend of Pacquiao Barrios, and that was a good-ass fight. Fulgham got a lot of experience from that fight, so let's see what he took from that fight and got better with. But I like that Fulgham is back in the ring after just 4 months. But S. Phil, thank you for the super chat, says, I see this fight like Benavidez versus Plant. Haney looks good early but gets worn down. Also, Haney looks great versus smaller guys when they are their size. That's kind of what the scenario I'm envisioning. Haney being sharp early and hurting Norman early. Because Norman, his legs buckle a lot early on. And he gets caught a lot early on. And I think Haney's going to be super sharp. So that's dangerous for Norman. You know, I could even see Norman getting up from a flash knockdown and winning this fight by stoppage. But if you get dropped or hurt bad, that could throw you off for the rest of your night. I mean, even physically, forget psychologically. Your legs could just be a little bit off your equilibrium the rest of the night. So that's dangerous for Norman early in this fight. But Phil, I kind of envision that being the case. Haney will be sharp, but ultimately Norman's going to get to him at some point. But we'll see. Luis Marquez, thank you, my brother, for the super chat. Says, Erickson Lubin for the upset. Much love. Huge fan. Let's go. Blessed night, everyone. Thank you, man, for this $20. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people showing some confidence in Lubin now that fight. I think he's worth a run for the money. I'm not picking him. I would stick to my guns with Ortiz. But I think Lubin at 5-1 is worth a run for the money, man. I think, you know, again, that high guard that Vergil tends to fight out of against that southpaw stance, giving half of your body. And yeah, we'll see, man. If Vergil runs through Lubin, salute to Vergil, you know. But I don't know, man. I got a feeling Vergil is gonna get tagged early, get his face reddened up. But he's a dog, man. He'll start punching with Lubin, and he's fast. He's fast, and he has a good enough jab to cut that distance. And then he's going to explode with combinations, and he's going to find Lubin with something. Lubin is not a Floyd Mayweather, a Pernell, a Shakur. He gets touched, so he's not going to be able to pitch a shutout. He's going to get hit. And then that's going to be an issue. I just think that's going to be an issue. 12 rounds is too long. Vergil throws too much volume with too much hand speed, too much relentlessness, too much dog. The way Lubin wins this fight, the way I see him winning the fight, he has to hurt Vergil early. And at that point, that could create some breathing room from him. Make Vergil have to think about things before he takes that step to him. And then at that point, slow down the pace just enough and create just enough distance between the two of them that Lubin can operate and outbox him. And take advantage of that high guard and poke with his stab jab to the body and fight the boxer puncher type of fight. But if he can't hurt Ortiz early, then I just think it's going to be a long night. It's going to be hard to stop that dog Vergil Ortiz from fighting downhill. So, but yeah, man, that like I said, don't get me started about Haney and Norman. That was probably like a 10-minute answer. And we're about to hit round 2 of the Fulgham fight, so I'll start talking about that. But how many more fights until the main event? One more, and then we are in main event time. Boxing 9741 says, I'm rooting for Haney, but I don't see Haney knocking out Brian Norman. I mean, that's the thing. Haney's went the distance in 10 straight 12-round fights. 10 straight. Now, you could look at that as a big advantage over Norman, who hasn't won 12 rounds. And look at all that championship level experience against Gamboa and Diaz and Linares and Kambosos twice and Prograis and Lomachenko most notably. But you could also look at it as a negative that you're plateauing, man. You can't get anybody out of there at this level. And Brian Norman has got all knockouts in his 3 title fights. He hasn't fought the caliber you've been fought on paper, but I don't know. You could look at it as a negative that he's plateaued. He just can't stop anybody at the real championship level, and that makes you more one-dimensional in a sense. But you know, if you're not Floyd Mayweather, that could be an issue. But maybe not, man. Anything's possible though. I think in some aspects Haney's punching power is a little underrated. I think at 35. That weight cut was draining his power a little bit. And then I think at 40 against Prograis, his power did look good. Although, to be fair, Prograis every time little JoJo, who was a featherweight, every time JoJo cracked him with a hard shot, he was, busting C-walks. He was on stinky legs and couldn't keep his balance to save his life. So what's Regis's punch resistance these days? But still, I thought Haney's power looked good. Haney did hurt Ryan with a left hook, and then against Ramirez, he didn't sit down on anything, so we don't know what the power was like that night. But I think Haney's power is actually a little underrated, and I actually think he is going to hurt Norman early. Norman gets hit early. Haney's going to be very sharp. He's got a lot to prove. So I think he buckles Norman early. So we'll see. But here we go into the second round. Fulgham, not jumping off the screen just yet. Nice straight right hand by Darius Fulgham. He looks, more confident, like, hey, man, this guy I'm in there with, he's not at the level of I was just at fighting, what was it, 10 or 12 hard with Beck the Bully. Almost called him Janet Beck. Pretty sure it was 12. But that was a good-ass fight. But with Fulgham, I don't see it. I don't see it. He's a good fighter. And you got to respect guys that are real solid pros that can really fight. He can fight. But I don't see it in terms of super middleweight champion. I don't think I'd favor him over Mabili or Lester Martinez or Diego Pacheco. I wouldn't favor him over those guys. Oh, little uppercut on the inside for Stevens. Fulgham is using his hands to touch Stevens and turn him around, but he's not working off those touches a lot. He's actually getting touched a little bit here down the stretch of the second round. And working a little sloppy on the inside. Stevens tying him up. Not setting the world on fire through 2 rounds, DFG, Darius Fulgham. He's kind of mid at this level, as the kids would say. No disrespect. But is Vergil fighting next? What's up, Laylo? He is. What's up, Panama? Good to see you, man. Devin can hurt people if he sits down. He doesn't because he won Tuesday. No, I think Devin has underrated power. I do. I don't think he's like my guy Paulie. So I think he's got underrated power, and I think he's gonna have pop at 47, but I think not enough. And I also think his chin I'm kind of expecting his chin to be an issue in this fight. I actually think Norman is going to hurt him on a jab. Because I think Haney's going to be cognizant of the hook. He's going to be keeping his hand on the phone on the hook. And Norman, he's got a great power jab. So I actually think Norman can hurt Haney with a jab. And remember when Kell Brook hurt Amir Khan with a power jab? I know Khan was totally shot, but I just remember that when Kell Brook hurt Amir Khan with a jab. I kind of think that Norman might hurt Haney at some point with the jab. And I think Norman's going to have a momentum swing in that fight at some point. I think it's going to be Haney early, and then when Norman's going to find him with a shot that changes the fight. But we'll see. I mean, we got 2 weeks to go. Part of me doesn't even want to make a pick because I don't want to eat crow, man. I haven't had my best year of picking fights. I have not lived up to my normal standard this year. Gotten some of them right, but gotten a lot. I've been damn near basically 50-50 this year, which is not acceptable standards. So I almost don't even want to pick the fight because I don't got the hot hand right now. And then Devin blocked me on Twitter, so because of the Victor Conti thing. Rest in peace to Victor Conti. When I pointed out, as Bill kept demanding testing from Brian Norman, and then Brian said, can we get a different form of testing because, aren't you guys close with Conti, who was close with Vada and all that? And I said, well, Brian, to your point, I do have an interview with Conti where he once admitted he knows how to beat the Vada test. And I went on to show the receipt from 2021. And then after that, I go to Devin's page and I'm blocked on Twitter. So that obviously rubbed him the wrong way. And what I'm getting at is Devin, I have so much respect for Devin as a fighter that I'm a little nervous to follow through on my Brian Norman pick because of all the crow I'd have to eat from the Haneys, to keep it real with you guys, which I will eat the crow like a man. If they win this fight, I got massive respect for Haney beating Brian Norman. I'm not going to all of a sudden just say Norman was a limited puncher who didn't beat anybody. I'm going to rate that win extremely high and probably look at it as Haney's finest hour. But yeah, I hesitate to even make a pick because, chat, I don't want to eat all that crow if Haney boxes his ears off. And nothing's really happening in the Fulgham fight worth talking about right now. So just so you guys know. Laylo said you gotta lock in, Sean. I do. I do gotta lock back in. So, you got Norman, but you've been on a losing streak. I mean, not a losing streak, but it's been up and down this year. It's been up and down. And I missed the big one, Canelo Crawford, which wasn't a good look. Let's see. Yeah, Fulgham looking meh. And this is supposed to be something of a showcase fight for him. That audience doesn't look very busy. That's not good. Vergil's fighting in Texas. He's supposed to be able at this point to move some tickets out there. And they got the crowd so damn blacked out I can't see anything. Vergil in the dressing room. Doesn't have a sweat worked up. Dry in the dressing room. Body looks good, but not great, if I'm being honest. So Vergil a little dry in the dressing room. Body looks good, not great. Can I see Lubin? What about Lubin? Does Lubin got a sweat worked up? How's he rehydrated on fight night? Let me get a look at Lubin. Errol Spence pulls up in Vergil Ortiz's locker room. And Spence looked a smidge taller than Vergil. Yeah, Vergil does. Yeah, a little dry, and his body looks good, not great. Feel like his body looked a little bit better for his first couple fights at 54. A little bit more cut in definition, but whatever. Matt Borgeson says Sean Zittel Vergil looks soft, maybe a little flat. So if you got your money on Lubin, maybe you like what you just saw in the dressing room from Vergil. Maybe a little flat in the dressing room. We'll see. Matt Borgeson, thank you from the super chat, and he doubles down and says Vergil looks soft. Soft is a bit much. He still got basically a six-pack. I mean, I'm soft right now compared to Vergil Ortiz. But yeah, relatively speaking, Matt, compared to how he looked in the Lawson fight, his first fight at 54, and Delorme and Madrimov, just a little bit less of that wow factor from the physique. But hey, it is boxing. It's not bodybuilding. We'll see what's up. Boxing analyst says time to move up. Panama noting the rare appearance from Spence. Let's see. Yo, can you break down ring without ropes, increase ring awareness, footness, distance management, add floor mats, and improve judge positioning for safety? Ooh, I don't know. We're a little in the weeds with that stuff. But yeah, let's take a look at Fulgham here for a second in the fourth round. Good, lands a good jab, good 2-1, which is a combination that Brian Norman loves a lot, the 2-1. I don't know if he'll be able to get off the 2. Might get checked by a hook by Haney trying to do that setup. He loves that setup. We can go back and forth on Haney and Norman all night, but I almost want to poll the chat. Chat, let me know in the chat. Who do you have, Haney or Norman, and why? Because we are killing some time. Fulgham is making this a hard watch. Lands his jab. Straight right hand. But Stevens is rolling the steam off some of these shots. Turns Fulgham in the clinch. Lawrence Cole sighting. Lawrence Cole. Everyone's favorite, worst referee. I love Lawrence Cole, though. Larry Merchant once exposed him on HBO about how he was basically like in Don King's pocket or something. And whatever. He was the ref that night. We still had a fight. But shout out to Lawrence Cole. Fulgham landing his jab, but not, finding the power shots with accuracy right now. Not putting together the right punch selection against Stevens, who's mauling him on the inside. Not mauling him, but clinching him a lot on the inside. Making it a wrestling match. Lawrence Cole breaks them up again. Fulgham lacks identity in the ring a little bit. He's to a lesser, like Lamont Peterson had this problem where Lamont got his best work done in the pocket, but he wasn't really a puncher. And Fulgham's that way. He kind of gets his best work done fighting, but he's not doesn't really have heavy hands like that. And he's not super hot as a boxer, as a technician. So, he lacks a little bit of an identity, a go-to identity in the ring. Not really a pressure fighter, not a pure boxer, that kind of thing. What's up, Mr. Quake? Asks, Mr. Quake asked if I saw Christie, or if I'm going to see the movie Christie. I just saw that. Oh, thank you for the super chat, Virgil. Yeah, I'm going to talk about Christie with Sydney Sweeney in a minute. I saw that with my wife last night. We got mom-in-law to watch the kids. So we got to see the matinee of Christie. Good flick, formulaic flick, what you'd expect from a boxing autobiography. A lot of montage scenes of Sydney Sweeney punching the bag, shadow boxing, training, fighting. They kill a lot of airtime with the formulaic fighting and boxing scenes and they lean on it a lot. And then late in the film, my wife noted like the last 30, 45 minutes, the tone of the movie shifts from like kind of a cliche, sports autobiography, boxing movie to like a thriller and almost a horror movie. Once, spoilers. Once spoilers, her husband at the time almost kills her, and he winds up he died last year for attempted murder. True story. In prison. And so the movie was good. Sydney Sweeney, very decent actress who is just like super over. She's America's sweetheart right now. And I'll give you guys a take on pop culture for a minute. I don't pay attention to the starlets. I got too much respect for my wife to do that. But I'm like, yo, this girl is like the most over blonde since Marilyn Monroe. And like Marilyn Monroe wasn't the best actress. Diane Keaton is a much better actress than Marilyn Monroe. Jennifer Lawrence and Margaret Robbie are better actresses than Sydney Sweeney, but between that interview she did with GQ and the way men like the way she looks on the red carpet with the clothes she wears and everything, and it was almost fitting and ironic that she was in this boxing movie because like she's like Rocky at the box office right now. Like she's America's sweetheart. Like people love what she's doing, and so kind of like Marilyn Monroe, she's this blonde that people find attractive, and she's not really the best actress, but she's done something to get super over, to put it in wrestling terms. Like she's really over. Her performance was pretty decent in the movie. Like just as a pure movie, I would compare it to I, Tonya with Margaret Robbie, and I, Tonya was a better movie, and Margaret Robbie had a little bit better performance. But overall, I'd recommend it. If you're looking to go to the movie to see Christie, I'd recommend it. It was a good flick. I thought it was good. And I also gave you a little pop culture take there. So there you go. But I think some people dropped out of the chat when I started talking about the movie, so that sucks. But Matt Borgeson said, bro, Lawrence Cole better not be the ref tonight. You're safe, Matt. He's the ref in the co-main event. He is not going to be the referee in the main event. Then Matt also says, Lubin going to be fighting the ref more than Ortiz. I mean, yeah, he's on enemy territory. This is a Golden Boy show. They are in Texas. They're in Vergil's hometown, and it's his promoter. But you know what? If the Lord has you, if it's your night, it's your fucking night. And that shit goes out the window when a man's on a mission and it's his night. So if it's Lubin's night, even if the ref's against him, even if the judges are against him, he'll find a way to win tonight. Or get robbed, and we'll all say he won, but he didn't actually get the decision. He might have to settle for that. But we'll see. So let's see. They're saying yes. So anyway, we're just letting Fulgham get us through the co-main event. You guys got any other topics you want to throw at me? Yeah, go for it. But we are killing a little bit of time. Fulgham isn't setting the world on fire, but he's getting his rounds in 4 months after his best fight in a loss to Beck. So Panama says this fight is cheeks, man. Tell us how you really feel. If the Haney that fought Prograis shows up, I think we get a better scrap than expected. I just think Haney has to walk a fine line on this night, but what the hell do I know? Yeah, it's a 50-50 fight. We'll see what happens. It's a little bit of head says Haney, gut says Norman. I can't believe so many people keep underrating Vergil. It's because he doesn't offer a lot of looks. He's mostly out of the high guard, and he has this look where he drops his lead hand to his chest and has a little look out of there, but it's because they think he's basic, but they're not realizing, let's just say he is basic. He punches with such velocity and volume and power, and he's so tough and is in such good condition to be relentless for 12 rounds, and he has a good jab, so it's not like he's naked at long range. He at least has a good jab and can double it up when you keep him at arm's length at long range. So I think if he's underrated, it's because he fights 80%, 90% of the time out of the high guard. And that, a lot of the best fighters in the world have their special effects, have their different. Inoue will shoulder roll on you. Inoue will drop the lead hand. He'll drop both hands, Crawford has all kinds of looks. The cross arms defense, all kinds of things he does. Vergil, for the most part, is eating his food off the high guard, and that makes people think he can be figured out. He's a puzzle that could be solved, easier than you might think. But if he's underrated, it's because you're underestimating everything that goes along with that high guard. The volume, the velocity, the power, the jab, the conditioning, the dog, the heart. Like that's what you're underrating. So, but we'll see. This fight will tell us something about Vergil tonight. This fight should tell us something about Vergil. Matt Borgeson, thank you again, brother, for the super chat. Tiger looked really good last night, Panama. He did. Tiger, though, up and down. He'll look like that one fight, and then he won't. Tiger, when he fights with a certain purpose on a given night, is a very talented, capable welterweight that looks like he could be championship material, but he's inconsistent. And so we got to, that's just, but he looked very good. But Matt Borgeson, thank you, says, how are the judges still not disclosed for the main event? It should be illegal to hide the judges until the event. Bullshit. Well, that's why people who didn't love my take against Dana and Turkey and all that and Saudi and TKO, that the bullshit you're talking about that is standard fare with the existing powers that be Golden Boy and PBC and Top Rank and that kind of bullshit like you're pointing out is why it falls on deaf ears to some people when I try to point out all the worries about TKO and Saudi. And by the way, just for the millionth time on a live stream, and we're not going to get deep into it. Remember, my main point it's deeper than boxing, is that like Ari Emanuel's family were tied to Israeli militia groups, and then Saudi, their government is in court right now, possibly being held responsible for 9/11. They're, having real knowledge of it, not just crazy hijackers that happen to live in Saudi Arabia. And Dana is this puppet being put out in front of you as they change U.S. laws to further the goals of people like Ari, who has the background I mentioned, and Saudi, who has the background I mentioned. Like, that's the big shebang. Even bigger than fighter pay, or even if TKO is the formula boxing needs to get back to mainstream relevant, whatever. Even if that's the case, it's not cool to change U.S. law to further a potential monopoly backed by Ari Emanuel and the Saudi government. But anyways, I digress. I forgot what made me do that. Oh yeah, that's right. How the judges cannot disclose this bullshit. That's why, despite me making that point, people are kind of like, I don't give a fuck. Boxing has been so fractured and messed up, and that, no, man, we want some organization and structure. We want to know the fights are going to get made. The product's going to be put on consistently. And so that's why some people are welcoming the new regime with open arms to that point, Matt Borgeson. But on and on we go. So on we go. Round 7. Fulgham, this isn't the performance I'm sure he wanted. Golden Boy gave him a good opportunity here, making him the co-main in this slot. And you're coming away. Golden Boy is going to come away from this saying, yeah, less attention on Fulgham, less priority on Fulgham, more priority on Josh Edwards and Amari Jones. Josh Edwards and even Amari Jones, who looked a little sloppy, they did their job. They did. Fulgham and DAZN has this fight even now after 6 rounds. So while we're good right uppercut on the inside by Fulgham, but he's in a scuffle. He's in an ugly fight and a competitive fight that DAZN has scored. So that ain't what he wanted. Flimsy, thank you for the super chat. Said, Sean, I know you like Dragon Ball Z. What's your favorite arc? My favorite arc, if I'm keeping it real, it's probably actually the Buu saga, because that's the one I wound up rewatching more times than not, and that's very unpopular take. I think objectively speaking, Namek into the Frieza saga is the best saga in Dragon Ball. So, but I'm actually going to say the Cell saga, because when there's just, I really like the Android saga. My favorite episodes is that small window where they're flying around and they're doing shit, and Piccolo's going to fuse with Kami, and Trunks is there from the future, and Vegeta just went Super Saiyan, and Goku's all fucked up. So they all got to be homies. You actually get homie screen time in the Android saga. Like, they're always called the Z Fighters, and the Cell saga is the one saga where they're all actually kicking it, and everybody's doing something. Like, even Tien comes in with the Tri-Beam Cannon. Gohan goes Super Saiyan 1 and 2. Vegeta beats the shit out of Android 19 and beats the shit out of Imperfect Cell. Trunk gets super stupid buff. You know, Krillin meets his wife. I'm going to say the Cell saga. You got your $2 worth, I think, on that end. I'm going to say the Cell saga. But really, just Dragon Ball Z is the shit. And I think my son is almost old enough now that I can show him Dragon Ball Z. And we're watching it in Japanese with subtitles, the way it's meant to be watched. So the nuance of the dialogue, it's better in Japanese when you have to just read the subtitle. You watch that shit in English and it becomes Power Rangers. It takes a hit. Although I know they redubbed it. But I just listen to the Jap. Anyway, Fulgham getting the better of this scuffle here in the 7th round. That should put him up ahead a point on DAZN's scorecard. But we're talking Dragon Ball Z and killing time until the main event. So, yeah, the Cell saga, man. Cell saga. Everybody was doing stuff. Matt Borgeson says, dude, this undercard has been bad. Thank you for the super chat, Matt. I'm sorry. Sorry that's the case. I mean, Josh Edwards was kind of fun. Boring fight. Yes, it is a boring fight. How old's your son? 6.5. His mom, it's overstimulated. You don't want the kid trying to fight somebody as a Super Saiyan on the playground, because he's all his mind's been blown by watching Dragon Ball Z. So I'm trying to wait until the right moment where it won't just blow his little mind too hard and he's trying to fight motherfuckers as Super Saiyan Goku on the playground. But boxing, I can't do Trump tonight. I'm just not feeling it. I'm not feeling the Trump tonight. So what's my thoughts on Bam versus Martinez? I think Bam wins. I think it's a really good fight. It's going to bring a lot of action. I think you can't pick against Bam. I think Bam is the 5th guy on the pound-for-pound list. I think the top 4 are cemented right now. It's Crawford, Usyk, Bivol, and Inoue, whatever order. I think, nobody's going to put Bivol. I think everybody's going to put Bivol 4th after those 3. But how you want to mix and match those top 3, do your thing. And I think number 5 is Bam. I think Bam is the 5th guy on the pound-for-pound list. And I don't think you could pick anybody at 115 or below against Bam Rodriguez. I don't think it's until he fights a Junto or an Inoue that you pick against him. So, Bam. But Bam is small. He's not as big as Inoue, and he's certainly not as big as Nakatani. So, as great as Bam is, and he is fucking great, that might be an issue at some point as when he moves up. But as long as he's fighting people essentially the same size as him, I don't think you could pick anybody against him. Someone's got to have a size advantage or something. I'm not picking against Bam, bro. I was there when Puma won his belt. I forget Was it Jerwin and Cajas on the Rolly Barroso undercard? That, chat, check that for me. Did Puma Martinez, he upset Jerwin, right? Or am I misremembering things? I think it was in Vegas at the Cosmo. And it might have been Frank Martin against Artem Hardatunian. Or it might have been Rolly Barroso. This had to be like 2022, 2023. I saw Puma. I was there when Puma won the IBF belt off Jerwin and Cajas. He's good. Good fighter. He's going to make it fun. They're going to throw a 1,000+ punches in that fight. But I'm not picking against Bam Rodriguez. No, sir. No. Yeah, man, Fulgham getting caught with some shit, man. Stevens is in this fight. 40 seconds left in the 8th. And, yeah, Fulgham is, at this level, a jag. Just a guy. He's good enough to be at this level. Like, just to be a fringe top 10 guy, you got to be able to fight. He's a pro, but, he just got hit with a right uppercut on the inside by Stevens. But he doesn't got it. I hate saying that with my sitting on my ass, but we're talking, relatively speaking, we're talking championship level boxing. I don't think he's got it. Not going to be a world champion. Solid pro, but nah, he's not showing it. That's it for the 8th round, and that was the Stevens round. This fight could be up for grabs. Thoughts on Eubank versus Ben too? You probably can recall, Maria, that first fight got too much hoopla in my opinion, but I get it. It's a fun promotion. You can't help but watch with the egg slap and the steroids and they're both good shit talkers. Eubank is a really good asshole when he wants to be, and then Ben, by being a steroid user and everything, made him the good guy. So that was fun, but I don't know. I wasn't as over the moon about their first fight, which was a hell of a fight. I don't take nothing away from them, but I didn't love the first fight the way everybody else did. So I don't know. I don't know who wins the second fight. Ben would need to take a significant step forward in his mechanics, and Eubank, it's very possible. Ben better have taken something out of Eubank, who's the older fighter, having a really rough weight cut to make these fights happen. So Ben is going to need he's going to need Eubank to be less than what he was, which is very plausible because Eubank went to the well in that first fight. He went to the well. He fought on fumes down the stretch of that fight. If he has to do that again, that's a very dangerous, precarious position to be in. His body might tell him no. His body halfway through a rematch might tell him, no, we're not doing this again, bro. That's what they mean when they say go to the well one too many times. So maybe Ben wins the rematch on that alone, Maria. Maybe that first fight will, and the weight cut, another round of a weight cut, and Ben was good enough to take him to the depths of hell. Maybe the body will rebel in fight number 2 and say no. But barring that, Eubank should win again. So I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. Sloppy boxing in the co-main. Indeed. Yes, sir. Indeed. We're just waiting for it to be over. And Stevens is actually getting better leverage on the inside on his shots lately. It is sloppy. Fulgham doesn't have any snap in his punches right now. Stevens is the one. A good right uppercut by Fulgham. Lifts the head up, but no power on his punches right now. And he looks a little tired. Looks a little fatigued. Lands his jab. Does Fulgham. Steps, smothers himself. Lands his jab and then smothers himself. Steps inside to do nothing. If he's going to land the jab and step inside, it should have a purpose. And he just kind of languished there. Gets caught with a left hook by Stevens. A right uppercut on the inside by Stevens. And again, Stevens is getting better leverage on the inside than Fulgham right now. Ref breaks him up. Lawrence Cole, Warren Stevens. Yeah, Maria says, I feel pretty much the same. Not real interested for some reason. Thanks, Sean. Well, I mean, it's a non-title fight. It's going to be fun. We'll watch and be ugly entertained by their press conferences and stuff. But the substance is it's more sizzle than steak with those two for me. But their first fight was a fight of the year contender. It was a hell of a fight, but but I preferred Inoue Cardenas. So right uppercut on the inside by Stevens. Stevens is landing the harder shots right now. This is an ugly wrestling match on the inside. And they got the best man there to handle it. Lawrence Cole. Lawrence Cole almost falls over himself. Take it easy, Lawrence Cole. Take it easy. 10 seconds left. Lawrence Cole, the most notable person in this ring. Left hook for Stevens. I think Stevens might have landed the harder shots. Fulgham, man, he better fight for his Golden Boy contract. He loses this last round. He loses this fight. He might lose his promoter. Teofimo's ringside. Teofimo and Shakur. Good fight, obviously. Don't need me to tell you that. But we'll see what we get in that fight. I think you got to favor Shakur because Teo struggles against boxers. And he has the more unpredictable, unstable makeup, it would seem. But you never know, man. Teo, he's shut people up as an underdog against southpaws before. Lomachenko and Josh Taylor. But those were front foot southpaws. This is a boxer who gets a lot of his best work done with you coming to him. Teo's a counterpuncher. He's not going to have as many counterpunching opportunities as he did against Lomachenko and Taylor. We'll see what we get. Matt, thank you for the super chat again. Says Teo's haircut looks like pubic hair Jesus. Well, Teo still got some star quality to him though, man. He still has some aura. I know that might not be the popular take right now, but you know, we'll see. He might pull a rabbit out of the hat against Shakur, and if he does, shit. But I'm favoring Shakur, and that's why the odds makers have him a significant favorite right now. I think it's just the consistency and the dependability, but Shakur's had uneven performances too. So we'll see. We'll see. Man, Chris Mannix has Stevens up around now. I thought he won the last round too. So Fulgham, man, this might be a wrap for him with Golden Boy if he gets knocked off here. He's got to fight for his career right here. This is a crossroads moment for gut check time for Darius Fulgham. 2 minutes left in the fight. Lands his jab. Stevens doubles up on the hook. Stevens smothers Fulgham along the ropes on the inside. Fulgham working. Doesn't have a lot of steam on his shots. Stevens looking a little tired himself now. Who wants it more here? Stevens holding a lot on the inside. Fulgham not able to generate any leverage, but working on the inside. Right hand by Fulgham out of the clinch. Fulgham just ugly work on the inside, holding down the head of Stevens and trying to hold his head down and hit him with the right hand, but still can't hit him. Boxing analyst says, what are these dudes doing? Yeah, this is ugly, man. This is ugly. I think people might want Stevens to win out of principle. Just so you don't have a pretender in Fulgham getting opportunities. That's harsh, but, you know, we're doing the job. It does not bring me joy to say that about fighters, but you guys need the truth. Minute left in the fight. Fulgham's out hustling him. Nobody's landing anything clean. It's a lot of sloppy, a lot of holding in this fight. Last minute of the fight. Fulgham busier than Stevens. Stevens doing more clinching than fighting. Fulgham landing that jab again and then falling into an ugly clinch. They exchange on the inside. Fulgham getting a little bit the better of it. 30 seconds left. Am I sleeping them? No. They're both whooping my ass. But that doesn't mean I can't say it's sloppy to watch. Fulgham turns him. Almost hits the back of Stevens' head with Stevens into the ropes. Then Fulgham leans on his back against the ropes. Short left hook on the inside by Fulgham. Stevens just, you know, Stevens is going to be kicking himself. He's a no-name who's fighting a guy that, you know, some of us know in boxing, has the promoter on his side. And Stevens should have went for broke there in that last round and closed strong. That's probably going to cost him this fight, David Stevens. That's going to be it. It was ugly. It was uneventful. It was listless. Fulgham did enough to win the last round. Did he do enough to win the fight? We were all half watching it, half talking about Norman Haney and Christy Martin. So we'll see what we get. Um, so we grew up with Lubin. Guaranteed he's taking this fight. Yeah, I mean he may have a stylistic advantage here. Boxer, puncher, southpaw, gets a high guard pressure fighter. He should be able to find some openings early, but he's got to hurt Ortiz. He's got to crack him. We'll see. This should have been Schofield versus Diaz. Yeah, I forgot about that. I think Schofield was gonna blitz Diaz too. I think he was gonna knock him out early. I think it was kind of gonna be like Farmer again. I think it was gonna be that moment that it's like, okay, JoJo is old and is in a weight class way too high now, and Schofield's finally the guy making that painfully obvious. But didn't happen. Didn't happen. But if Schofield didn't get him out of there early, maybe he was going to be in for some, deep waters with JoJo. But come on, JoJo's lost 4 fights in a row. Kid Austin's job in that fight was going to be to bomb JoJo out of there, which nobody has done. It was to do the Tevin Farmer to him again. Not necessarily in one round, but the job Kid Austin was going to have tonight was 4 rounds. Get him out of there in 4 rounds. He's little, he's chubby at this weight, and he's lost 4 fights in a row. Get his ass out of there and get him out of there quick and in spectacular fashion. But it was not to be. Thank you, boxing analyst. But what am I thinking for tonight's fight, Sean? I got Ortiz. I think Lubin is worth a run for the money at the odds 5-1. I think putting a bet on Lubin makes some sense. I think he's gonna have an advantage at least in the first round or so. And but I think Ortiz is a dog, man. He's a hard customer to turn away. It's hard to make him stop coming after you. And I don't know if Lubin can hit him with something early enough to create some distance and slow the fight down a little bit. Lubin isn't a masterful boxer. He's a good boxer puncher with good pop, good speed, good southpaw style in the center of the ring, but he ain't perfect, and he's gonna get hit. And so I guess it kind of feels like there's an inevitability to this fight. I got Ortiz. It feels like Lubin, my gut feeling before we get to this fight is that an upset's possible. Ortiz looked a little dry and a little flat in the dressing room 30 minutes ago when they showed him. And Lubin is coming in under the radar and is quietly still only 30 years old. He might be an old 30 because the Fundora fight, the Charlo fight, but third time's the charm, right? This is his third bite at the apple. And he's kind of at a sweet spot potentially where you got all the veteran wisdom, but your body is still young enough. It depends on what his body is like after the Fundora fight, where your body is still fresh enough to do the things it did in its 20s, but now you have the IQ and the experience. And so maybe Lubin's in a sweet spot in his career and is coming in under the radar, low expectations, and maybe he beats Lubin, maybe he pulls off the upset. But I think what's likely is Lubin boxes very well and gives a good account of himself, but inevitably, there's an inevitableness to the fight, an inevitability to the fight. He's going to get stopped at some point inside of 12. It's just what's going to happen. We'll see. Lubin is adorned in his Mexican mariachi outfit, so he's up for it. And Ortiz does look a little flat in the dressing room. He's throwing punches on the mitts, kind of standing straight up, throwing punches at whatever speed, doesn't have a sweat built up. And Erickson Lubin looks up for this. This is his Super Bowl. He's got the Mexican mariachi outfit on, so he's thinking like Terrence Crawford against Canelo, time to play spoiler in front of the great Mexican fans, time to send them home disappointed. So we'll see, man. We'll see. I'm up for this. And I gotta take a piss. And when I come back from taking a piss, I'm gonna answer a super chat from my man Jameson Childress. So keep it locked in right here. Don't go anywhere. 1 second. Oh. All right, chat. I hope we didn't lose a lot of people. All right, we lost like 20 people. That's not the end of the world. But anyways, someone said, didn't you, Fireballer said, didn't you used to think Haney was going to be pound for pound number one? I did. And I had a stake in that, having covered Devin since he was 15. Of course, I wanted to say I covered the next pound for pound great as a teenager. Yeah, I was invested in his journey. And always will be. I always wish the best for Devin, even if he blocked me on Twitter because of the Victor Conti stuff. It is what it is. I get it. But when he lost to Ryan that night, you know, that was hard for me to watch, having known Devin since he was 15. You know, may the best man win. It is what it is. But that it was a shocking result. He was a 9-1 underdog, and he battered Devin. And it was just a miserable night for Devin that night in Brooklyn. And I said that night, you know, because the dream was to be the next Floyd Mayweather, to be the pound for pound heir apparent. And I said that night against Ryan, the dream is dead. And as far as him becoming number one pound for pound, that's my quote, you know, from the Garcia fight. The dream is dead. Now, I think it's inevitable he will be world champion again. Although there is a scenario that Ryan ruined him, and he's gonna look kind of shot in a sense against Norman. There is potential for this to be the worst case scenario for Haney. That, you know, the Ramirez fight wasn't a fluke. Garcia really did do something to permanently damage him, and now he's damaged goods. And in that scenario, maybe he never is world champion again. But I think it's more likely that either he wins his next world title against Brian Norman. I'm picking Norman. I'm leaning towards Norman. But I think even if he loses to Norman, I think he'll be world champion again. But, and I think pound for pound top 10 is within his grasp. I think if he beats Norman, he'll be back on the pound for pound list. But pound for pound number one, I think the dream is dead. I don't think he'll ever be number one pound for pound. No. And that is far from a hot take at this point. But I got a super chat from my man Jameson Childress. Thank you for the $10, brother. Said, Sean, in your opinion, how many talented fighters do we have in this new generation versus skilled fighters? Oh, man. It's a good question. In this new generation, I think Abdullah Mason is still more talented than skilled. Not that he's not skilled, but he doesn't feint. His defense is kind of average right now, and his footwork's not the best. But he has such electric talent in his hands, and he has such talent having that freakish Terrence Crawford 74-inch length while starting at 35, that he's more talented than he is skilled. I think Emiliano is both. I think Emiliano is talented and skilled right now. I don't think he's quite the wiry puncher that Mason is, and he doesn't have Mason's length. But I think he moves better than Mason right now, and I think his feet are a little bit more educated than Mason right now, and he switches up his looks a little bit. Emiliano's got both talent and skill. We just got to see if he's got punch resistance, dog. If he's, you know, how's he look when he gets hit? Because we saw Mason when he got hit, he got right back up and knocked the dude out. So we know he has a level of dog in him and grit. We haven't seen Emiliano tested in that. So that goes for the top two new era guys I'm thinking about there. Kid Austin is more talent than skill, but he's a power boxer. He boxes off of his athleticism. It's not just he's increasingly in control of that Ferrari. He's not just whipping it around crazily. He reminds me of Shane Mosley a little bit. Like he's like Jack Mosley called it power boxing, but he's more talent than skill. Keyshawn's both talent and skill. I think Benavidez is his skill is coming up to his talent, but I think he in the beginning was more talent than skill. And then Boots is more talent than skill. He has skills, doesn't always use them all at the right time, but he's more talent than skill. Bam Rodriguez is both. He's more as talented as Bam is. He might be even more skilled than he is. He is more skilled than he is talented. I think Crawford, he's not a new generation to answer your question, but I think Crawford's more skilled than he is talented. I think Inoue is both, but I think he's more talented than he is skilled. I think Usyk is more skilled than he is talented. So let's see. I think Norman is more talented than skilled, but he also has skill too. But I think his talent trumps his skill, his explosiveness, his power. So, is it true that Spence really did retire, or are you guys making that up? Hold on, let me look that up. Let me go to Twitter. Is that true? Spence retired? Chat, confirm. Let me look this up. Spence. I'm not seeing anything on Twitter. I didn't see anything on Twitter. So who's saying Spence retired? I'm just curious. Who's saying Spence retired? Anyway, Vergil, man, continues to be dry in the dressing room. I don't think that's a good sign, but whatever. Erickson Lubin at plus 550. I think that's a solid bet, chat. If you got some money to burn and you're having your beer, smoking a little weed on Saturday night, I think Lubin's worth a run for the money. And to you sober heads out there who are just eating your well-cooked meal, maybe you're on the barbecue, listening to the live stream, watching the fight, you got some money to burn. Lubin at plus 550 might be worth it. I don't know. But I still think Ortiz is going to win. So, who else? I'm trying to think of young guys. Amari Jones has talent, but he's not so talented that he's going to get by on it alone. I think he's going to be more of a skill guy, Amari Jones. But he's tall and has good feet. Amari Jones, the Michigan, Florida Amari Jones, not California Amari Jones. I like the kid Steven Navarro is very skilled. Steven Navarro is the little, you know, the middle class Bam Rodriguez. Steven Navarro got some Bam Rodriguez in him, man. Watch out for Steven Navarro as a young skilled fighter. Yeah. Sean, you got to listen to Rosalia album. Who's that? I don't know who that is. Production's impeccable. I didn't watch Border Wars. I did see the clip that Two Tone shared of someone got knocked out bad. That's kind of scary. So it's getting real at the Border Wars. The level of fighting is getting dangerous. Is Vergil the last of the great Mexicans in boxing? No, I don't think so. But I mean, Canelo's ship is in the twilight for sure now, man. And what concerns me about Mexican boxing is that usually the next guy, we were aware of who the next guy is by this juncture of the last guy's career. By this stage of Canelo's career, we're supposed to kind of already have anointed the next great Mexican fighter, because Canelo was anointed as that while Marquez held the throne. And Marquez, Morales, and Barrera, they were already anointed while Chavez held the throne. And Barrera specifically in 95, 96, 97. And then Morales joined him in 97. And, they were already the anointed one by the time Chavez got old. And you know, and Canelo with Marquez and Barrera and Morales when they got old, and so on and so forth. So what's concerning is that next guy isn't super obvious. I think it's Marco Verde, but I don't know. Marco Verde has a different temperament than all the other great Mexican fighters. They punched with bad intentions. Marco Verde is a skillful southpaw. I really like Marco Verde, but I don't know if he's the guy. I'm excited about him. I have my stock on Marco Verde. I like Marco Verde, but I don't know if he's that next Canelo Chavez, Dinamita Marquez, Salvador. I don't know, man. That's a lot to live up to. And it happened to Puerto Rico, man. Now Xander is on his way to 2 belts, but Puerto Rico had to go through a big lull once Cotto got old. And, so that's something to worry about with Mexico. I hope it's not the case. Rohan Polanco is more talent than skill, Maria. He's going to have to keep evolving, because he's right now, a lot of his game, and he's got good sense of distance and all that. Don't get me wrong. Like, guy just knows how to fight, period. But for the most part, it's the speed-power combo that's winning him fights. And I think he went the distance his last fight, didn't he? He didn't look as hot as he did knocking a few other guys out before that. But I like Polanco. He's a good fighter. But I do think, he's getting by on the power-speed combo a little bit. And you're going to need more than that at some point. Divino, it's kind of, talent, because being born really fucking tall is a talent. It's not something you worked for. It's a talent. And he has power, but he's becoming more and more and more skilled, Divino. And he's gotten a little bit better at turning guys. He's a really good inside fighter, even though he's so tall. And he's just becoming a more skilled, crafty featherweight champion. But overall, I'd say Divino, it's still more talent, because being born tall is a talent. So, Divino, in terms of Divino being the next Mexican great, no. He doesn't have the level of skill that Marquez, Morales, Barrera, and Canelo have. I don't see it. He's good. He's another vaquero. He's another quality champ. He's another, he's more on the level of Pitbull and Vaquero Navarrete, like a quality champion from Mexico, not the guy. But I get it. He sings songs. He's a beautiful soul, like super great person, can sing. So he's got a little bit more charisma than you might think. And he's really fun to watch. And he's such a... He's a guy. I mean, he's a good... He's a legit player. But the next Canelo, no. And his defense isn't good enough. But here we go. Here comes Erickson Lubin. Main event time. We finally got there. Let's go. So, Erickson Lubin, Mexican colors, sombrero, got a good. This is it for Lubin. This is it. 3rd time's the charm, or you're never gonna be a world champion. And it's an interim title. We know Fundora is the full WBC champion, but for Lubin, it's now or never at this level. He was the prospect of the year almost 10 years ago, and dared to be great. Fought Charlo at 22 years old. Really wasn't ready for that. He stepped up a couple levels, got knocked out in 1 round, had a good rebuild, won 6 or 7 fights, had a war with Fundora, became a meme because he got beat to a bloody pulp. His face they were calling him the Elephant Man, but he showed a ridiculous amount of heart in that fight and almost knocked Fundora out too. Dropped him, had him badly hurt. And, Lubin... Again, he's had 3. This is his 3rd time's the charm. We'll see. He's still just 30 years old. Might be a shop-worn 30, depending how much Fundora took out of him. Or he might be at the sweet spot at 30. Got all the experience and the wisdom of a veteran, but still young enough to execute the things he could do in his 20s. And this is his Super Bowl. That's an edge for him, motivation-wise. This is not a Super Bowl for Vergil Ortiz. This is just another tough fight against a tough veteran. Again, got to give Ortiz credit as he's getting ready to walk into the ring. 3 straight quality opponents, 3 straight top 10 super welterweights in Boachuk, Madrimov, and now Erickson Lubin. I said it at the beginning of the live. You know, we make a lot about unifications and elite pound for pound fights and all that. But there's something to be said about just fighting quality top 10 guy after top 10 guy. And that's what Vergil's doing tonight. Credit to him for that. Vergil coming to the ring now. He always looks really mean. He's got a great game face. Actually, if we're talking game faces, Vergil Ortiz probably has one of the best game faces in boxing. He wears a scowl on his expression. He looks very mean in that ring and fights with a lot of ferocity. It's not just a look. He is mean in that ring. He throws punches like he's trying to take your head off. And in my eyes, he's one of the best combination punchers in boxing. And I think his velocity, his hand speed is a little underrated. He could really put those combinations together. But he's got to get a little close to mid-range to get those combinations off. And it's Lubin's job to keep him on the outside and to hurt him early and get his respect early in this fight. That is very tough to do. Boachuk dropped him twice, couldn't keep him off of him. Madrimov was able to back Terrence Crawford up, couldn't keep Ortiz off his ass for a second for 12 rounds. So I don't know how Lubin's going to do that. He'll have to use his aggressiveness against him and walk him into something big early to settle him down and tame some of that aggression. That's going to be a tall task for Lubin. He's got the southpaw stance. He's got the skills and the pop. We'll see what he can do as a big underdog tonight. Both fighters in the ring now, and we're getting ready for main event time. So, is Jeff Garcia my favorite Niner quarterback all time? No, it's Steve Young. Steve Young all day. So, all right. Lubin's got the better sweat worked up. You know, he's got his swag built up. He's on his shit. Vergil, mean, ready to go. I do wonder if Vergil's a little flat tonight. Or if he's just gonna dispatch of Lubin. We'll see. Now, yeah, Vergil's got a good little sweat worked up. So he's not as dry as I originally thought coming to the ring. Both fighters got their sweat worked up. It's going to be tough for Lubin, man, over the course of 12 rounds. That volume, that chin is going to get touched. He don't have a good chin, not really. But we'll see. Maybe he disarms him. Maybe that pop that Lubin has. Remember how he did Jorge Cota with that beautiful left-hand knockout. Little spring up, bounce down, and then sprang back up. Boom, straight left hand with his hands down. That was talented, beautiful stuff from Lubin. So, but we'll see, man. Let's see. Anglo Vox says Chicanos. Mistros says que viva la raza. Let me see. Lubin is the next Obakar. It's a good comparison. Might be the case. Did the Niners make a mistake by letting Ricky Waters go? Absolutely. Ricky Waters and Dion. Anyway. Lubin got that swag, man. He got that confidence. Nodding his head up and down. He looks ready to play spoiler. Ready to be the upset, the dark horse. Lubin is a dog. He does love boxing. He was a thoroughbred in the amateurs. His Achilles heel has been his durability, his punch resistance. It hasn't been his skill. It hasn't been that he doesn't punch hard. It's been the durability. And that was something that a lot of boxing writers heard about him in the amateurs, that his chin wasn't the best. So it's not really something that could be fixed, but we'll see what he could do tonight. He's got the Mexican colors on, looks confident. Confidence has never been an issue for him. He believes in himself. It's always his punch resistance betrays him. It's not his confidence and it's not his skill set so much as it is his punch resistance. So we'll see. So Ortiz. Again, I do wonder if he's a little flat tonight. This isn't a Super Bowl fight for him. It's just another, I get it. A true professional takes every fight 100%. That's their modus operandi. But this is Lubin's Super Bowl. It ain't Ortiz's Super Bowl. So we'll see. Ortiz just looks ready to get on with it. Get it over with. Sometimes that's the swag of a heavy favorite is, you know, I'm just ready to get this shit on and get it. I'm looking through you. I'm ready to fry this fish and move on to bigger fish. And maybe that's Ortiz right there in that ring. Yeah, he's good. He's a good veteran. It's going to be a good fight. I'm going to get to him at some point and get him out of there. Let's go. Ortiz is so mean, man. Ortiz looked mean as a motherfucker in that ring. Adrian Wells, thank you so much for the $20 super chat, bro. Says, what's good, bro? How's your night going? Quick question. Seeing that Jermell, Errol, and Jaron are at the fight, if you were matchmaking, who would you want them to fight next at 54? Appreciate your content. I gotta be honest, man. Jermell and Errol are old news. I'm only really interested in what Jaron does next, and I think Golden Boy is starting to throw cold water on Jaron fighting fighting Ortiz next. I think he should look Bakram Murtazaliev's way. But here we go, round one, and Lubin starts with the hands picked up. Usually he's a guy who's going to drop that lead hand a little bit, but for Ortiz, he starts with those hands picked up. Ortiz steps in with a jab. Lubin steps over to his left, touches with his jab, falls short with his jab there. Ortiz with that high guard, shoots his jab, gets closer with his jab than Lubin does. Now Lubin touches the body with a jab after Ortiz bats down his jab up top. Ortiz already getting close to mid-range. Lubin steps over to his right. Ortiz applying a little bit of pressure already, but Lubin not being sped up, able to step to his left and not giving too much ground early on. But it is Ortiz on the front foot. Lubin touching the high guard, probing a little bit. Ortiz jabs to the body, steps forward. Lubin's back is near the ropes. Lubin shoots his first straight left hand, and that keeps the distance where he needs it. Touches Ortiz with a jab to the body. Lubin is near the corner, but is staying composed there, and now steps to his left. Vergil gets him near the ropes, touches him with a jab, left hook to the body, left hook up top for Ortiz. Lubin blocks that left hook up top, but that left hook to the body found him. Now Lubin is not where he wants to be, against the ropes. And it's not a good sign that in the first minute and a half, Ortiz already got him there. Ortiz blocks a lead left hand by Lubin, keeps that high guard up tight. Now Lubin's in the center of the ring trying to angle off to his right a little bit. Step over to his right, probing a little bit with his lead hand, but Ortiz's high guard, very disciplined. Ortiz so intense in that ring. He carries that intensity, that ferocity. Lubin, though, has the fight in the center of the ring. Oh, nice jab in the center of the ring by Ortiz. And that's that underrated jab of Vergil Ortiz. He's not in no man's land at long range. He's got a good jab. Ortiz, the more effective jab in round one right now. Backing Lubin up with the jab. Lubin's back touches the ropes. Minute left in the round. Lubin gets his left uppercut blocked off the jab. Good high guard defense by Ortiz. Lubin touches around the high guard a little bit with a right hook there, though. Not a lot of power on it, but it touched Ortiz. Ortiz applying a little bit of pressure. Lubin picking his gloves up. Getting cornered. Straight right hand by Ortiz. Punches through the high guard, a little bit of Lubin. Now Ortiz follows up with a left hook behind a lead right hand. And a lead right hand knocks the head up of Lubin a little bit. More accuracy from Ortiz and doing it in the center of the ring with a straight right hand. That's good stuff by Ortiz. That's supposed to be Lubin's real estate. Lubin jab to the body. But he's having a hard time finding an opening against that disciplined high guard of Vergil Ortiz. Vergil falls in with a jab that time, but loses his balance. 10 seconds left. Nice straight right hand to the body by Vergil Ortiz. Vergil Ortiz, good combination up top. Left hook, straight right hand, left hook. That right hand is a nice laser for Ortiz in round one. Straight right hand, left hook by Ortiz at the bell. That's not a good trajectory for Lubin in round one. He found it hard to find an opening. Some people in the chat were saying Ortiz is underrated. You see that high guard and you think you're going to poke and prod it and come around it, come underneath it. I think Lubin found it a little bit more difficult than it looks on tape. And Ortiz, I like that he landed a straight right hand at long range a couple times, and and his jab was finding the mark more accurate than Lubin. That's impressive stuff for Ortiz, showing that because Ramos was only able to hit Lubin on the ropes. In the center of the ring, Lubin was a step ahead and a little too rangy for him to consistently find him. Ortiz was the better fighter in the center of the ring that round, and that's where he impressed me a little bit there. So yeah, 10-9 Ortiz, and Lubin not as confident down the stretch of that round as he was in the fight introduction. So here we go, round 2. And Ortiz getting off first with the lead hand. Now Lubin trying to get a little bit more comfortable, drops that lead hand for the first time and tries to stab the body with the jab. But this is looking good for Ortiz early. Lubin measuring, dropping that lead hand a little bit. He's going to have to get in his bag against this guy. Can't just keep it straight up and down. But you take chances when you do that. Ortiz staying on top of Lubin, not reaching with anything. Lubin keeping him at bay, poking and prodding with the lead hand. Nothing too effective there. Ortiz, nice sharp counter by Ortiz. Counter jab, and then a straight right hand by Ortiz. Good. And now a lead left hook. Lubin's hurt. Lubin's hurt on the ropes. Ortiz busting through to the body, keeping him pinned on the ropes. Lubin misses. Good head movement by Ortiz, and then he comes back with a jab that lands accurate. Good defense by Ortiz. Covers up in the high guard, catches a 2-3 punch combo from Lubin. Now comes back. Lubin, left uppercut, but gets it blocked by the hard guard. Lots of blocking by Ortiz right now with Lubin pinned against the ropes. Ortiz with a great sense of timing of when to let go of the shot right now. Ortiz keeping him pinned there. Good uppercut. Off the body shot by Ortiz. Sweeping right hands. No, right hand. Lubin's out on his feet, and the referee stops it. It was a sweeping right hand. Lubin was out on his feet. That was impressive by Vergil Ortiz. A 2-round destruction. The patience, the defense out of the high guard, the hand speed. He countered with his jab 2 or 3 times. Ooh, I don't know, Boots. Boots is saying it's time. Look, Boots has the length and the different looks and the versatility over Ortiz, but Ortiz is so sharp and disciplined with what he does, he might beat Boots, man. That was really impressive. That was impressive by Vergil Ortiz, man. That was impressive. Lubin does not have a good chin, and that's a shame for Lubin. You can't change that, but Lubin was also getting outboxed. He was fine. You could tell down the stretch of the first round that Lubin found it harder to hit Ortiz than he thought he was going to find him to hit. That was, I feel for Lubin. You know, he's probably holding back tears right there. He ran into a buzzsaw tonight. Nothing to be ashamed of. I love the right hand knockout shot by Ortiz. Lubin was absolutely out on his feet, and the referee did a great job there saving him from because Ortiz was not going to stop punching until that man hit the floor. And Ortiz knew he was out on his feet, but Ortiz is a killer. He is mean. Ortiz is one of the meanest fighters in boxing. He fights with a level of ferocity. I said it before the fight. He and his sense of timing, I don't mean timing in terms of timing with the count, punching in between the other guy's punches. He had an incredible timing to do my turn, your turn tonight. And he did counterpunch with the jab in particular 2 or 3 times beautifully. And I saw this look from Lubin after he countered him with the jab 30, 40 seconds before this knockout that Lubin said, oh shit. Like, oh shit, this dude's reactions are quick. His reflexes are quick. His counter was quick. His punches are fast. This boy is harder to hit than I thought. I saw Lubin go, oh shit. And in the short time this fight elapsed, and that was a fighter who came into the ring with a lot of confidence and was quickly taken from him like that. And, man, what was I saying? Just, I'm losing myself in the sauce. Just, yeah, that was very impressive by Ortiz, man. Very impressive. Very impressive. I don't think people quite expected that. You know, the calmer heads can go, look, he just did something Jermell Charlo did 8 years ago. Let's calm down here. But I don't know, man. I think it was the defense. Oh, back to what I said, timing, because I didn't finish my long-winded point. Timing, usually when I think of timing, it's the timing to punch with another fighter and time them. Counter them with the pull over the jab. punch with them at the same time they punch and time them with a shot. Brian Norman's good at that. But I think the timing today from Vergil that was exquisite was the timing Barral did beating Yoenis Tellez. Having that sense of, now I'm going to punch. Now I'm going to take this one step inside and get off. Now I'm going to play defense. Now there's nothing there. I'm not going to reach. I'm not even going to poke and prod and feint. Nothing's there. I'm not in range. Not even worried. And then every time Vergil decided to punch, he was accurate. Even if it landed on the chest or it found a glove, it was on target. You know, he only reached once in this fight where he got off balance. Other than that, his sense of timing was, he's getting better, man. He leveled up from the Madrimov fight, because Madrimov is awkward and fast, and he gives you different looks, and he moved a lot. Vergil took something out of that fight. He's a little craftier and a little harder to beat and a little harder to hit than he was pre-Madrimov. He made Lubin look like nothing. Like, Lubin couldn't even find him with a shot. Man, oof. I'm just impressed. A+. That was fantastic by Vergil Ortiz, man. That was fantastic. I'm happy I picked him. Hey, at least I got that right. I thought Lubin was gonna box better, but Lubin doesn't have a chin, and he ain't that guy at this level. But Vergil is. Vergil beats Fundora. Yeah, Vergil beats Fundora. The defense I saw tonight, the high guard I saw tonight, and the reaction times I saw tonight to Lubin's punches, Ortiz beats Fundora. Yeah. And he might beat Boots too. Boots doesn't keep it tight. Boots is heavy-handed. He's an amazing talent. He does so much highlight reel, just awesome stuff. I love watching Boots, but he doesn't keep it tight. Everything Vergil Ortiz does, for the most part, is tight and compact. And he's just fundamentally more sound than Boots, perhaps in spades. And Boots can overcome that with talent and creativity. But this guy has velocity. He's fast. It's one thing if you have a huge speed advantage and you fight with your hands down and you're the creative guy, multiple stances, and the other guy's a high guard master, and you're a step or two faster than him. But in terms of just pure hand speed, Boots ain't that much faster than Ortiz. And Ortiz is so much more fundamentally sound and disciplined than Ennis, who gets loosey-goose and wears shots on his chin that he shouldn't. Man, you know what? If I was the president of boxing, I would order Ortiz to fight Fundora and Bakram to fight Murtazaliev. They don't got to fight next. If they fight next, it's for an interim belt. It's not even for anything. But what sucks is you can't trust boxing to make the fight. If there's a window to make a fight, and there is a window to make the fight right now. They've talked about it. People are talking about it. Both camps have talked about it. The promoters have talked about it. Then you usually, if you let the window go by in today's era, it's never going to happen then. So I hesitate to offer this up. But in my perfect world, they don't fight next, Ortiz and Boots. Let Boots fight Bakram. Let Ortiz fight Fundora. And then they could fight WBC, IBF unification while the young bull Xander continues to get his ears wet and gets ready to fight them. He ain't ready for them yet. You hear what I'm saying, guys? Okay, all right. Well, they got Ortiz. Okay, let me hear this. Vergil saying this is the fight that has to happen. All right, so the fighters are saying all the right things. The zone has them in the ring. This might be next. I don't know, man. I go back and forth. It's a 50-50. I always thought Ennis, because, look, as good as Ortiz is, this can only go so far against all of this. All the stances. And I don't even mean southpaw orthodox stance. I mean, my lead hand's low. Now it's up. Now it's here. Now they're both down. Now they're both up. Now that all the creativity and versatility and all the different looks and all the different things in the bag of Jaron Ennis will ultimately triumph over Vergil Ortiz's tight, compact, high guard game. But Vergil tonight showed me the reflexes and the hand speed and the ability to counter that Jaron may not have the athleticism advantage he truly thinks he has, and Vergil beats him. I don't know, man. I don't know. Gun to my head. I don't know, man. Man, Boots is talking a lot. What's he saying? Vergil looks. Boots looks bigger. I'll favor Boots. He looks a little bit bigger than Vergil, but Vergil is a more disciplined fighter, and he's so mean and so intense in that ring, man. And Boots slacks off in that ring, man. He gets like Kid Chocolate. He gets like Jason Williams. He wants to be on the And One mixtape, and Vergil will win ugly. Boots likes to get pretty and saucy and flashy and all that shit. And I know there's a lot of substance and punching power behind all that flash. I'm not saying that. But Ortiz has a lot of substance, a lot of dog, a lot of discipline, a lot of grit. And I think Boots has grit too. He's a Philly dog. I favor Boots. He was bigger than Vergil when they stared down right there. And Boots is a special talent. And so is Vergil. But Boots is a little bit more special, raw talent. I'll give the edge to Ennis, man, but I don't know, man. I don't know. Ortiz might clock him because he keeps everything more fundamentally sound. That's a good-ass fight. It's a great fight, but it's not for all the marbles, though. What's Oscar saying? Now, this is the guy that actually matters, is what Oscar's saying. He said he's surprised Eddie Hearn and Boots are here. Oscar's going to say words. We'll see what his actions reflect. You don't know boxing. Every hit Boots takes, he rolls with the punch. All right, I don't know boxing. Sean, you wrong. This would be a unification of interim belts when they fight, right? Interim unification. We'll see. Boots has to be defensively responsible. He does, and I think he'll dial it up for Vergil. He will be more defensively responsible. Because he carries some of that bullshit that he does against lower level opposition against Ortiz. He's going to lose. He's going to get cracked. But I don't think he'll do that. I think he'll tighten it up. He'll tighten things up a notch for Ortiz. So yeah. Yeah. No race wars in the chat. May the best man win. They're both American, right? So come on. May the best American win between Vergil and Boots. It's a great fight, man. It's a great fight. 50-50 type fight. I'll give the edge to Ennis just on his ridiculous God-given talent, and he's a little bit bigger, I think, when they stood side to side, or face to face. But it's a great fight, man. I wouldn't be surprised if Ortiz clocks his chin and makes him pay for his mistakes. Wouldn't be surprised. But I think that's a great fucking fight. Only thing that I'm salty about with the fight is it should be built up better. It should mean more. But whatever. Thank you for the super chat. Jerry Soriano says, Boots wearing heel boots. Ortiz has on flat boots. I hear you. Maybe that's the case, but I don't know. Boots still... And Boots didn't just get done fighting. He's had a couple weeks to blow back up in weight, be around 170 something. Ortiz just got done, making weight for a fight and rehydrated, but Ortiz is going to be bigger in the next couple weeks too, just like Boots is. So I consider that too. But don't overthink it, man. When they were face to face, you could talk about shoes and rehydrated. Not overthinking it, Boots was a little bit bigger. So for sure, Oscar don't want that fight. I wouldn't. I think my kid can win the fight, but it's a tough fight. If I'm Oscar, I'm doing the Fundora fight next. My kid beats Fundora. And if I'm really being slick and I'm Oscar, I'm doing Fundora, and then I'm seeing if I can convince Xander Zayas to bite off more than he could chew and take that fight, you know. But I think what's good for the sport would be Vergil Fundora next, Boots Bakram, and then they fight each other in a real unification. Who's the ring champ and all that shit at 54? I think, and then in the background, Xander collects 2 belts, and he's put on ice, ready to fight the winner of Boots and Vergil. And or if Boots beats Vergil and Boots moves up to 160, then Vergil could still have a super fight for 2 belts against as in the losers bracket fighting Xander Zayas. So look at the final CompuBox numbers. 3 power punches landed by Lubin through 1.5 round, a 17%, 61% for Vergil Ortiz. That is impressive, man. I think what Ortiz did tonight was downright impressive. So I give Ortiz a lot of credit. Thank you for the super chat. Kenny Powers says, it has begun. I'm with Ortiz Jr. Do I think Lubin could have put up a better fight? No, Gustavo, I don't. I think he immediately found Ortiz to be a more difficult puzzle than he thought. He knew this guy was going to be strong and relentless and dangerous. What caught him off guard was the defense and the speed and the overall skill of Vergil Ortiz. And I saw a look and I said during the live round by round, I go, this ain't looks like this doesn't traject too well for Lubin. And Lubin didn't even get hit with a really big shot in the first round. It was the positioning of the 2 fighters. You could see his back's already touching the ropes the first minute of the fight. He's not able to land anything. Vergil is more accurate with his shots. You could tell it was going to be all downhill already from there. So no, there's nothing Lubin could have done tonight. Nope. Vergil is just that good. Lubin, Raphael 32, what's up, my brother? Says Lubin's punch resistance is gone. What little of it there ever was is gone. It was never that good to begin with. And then unfortunately for him, you know, Lubin against a guy like Ramos was able to stay a step ahead. Couldn't do that against Ortiz, man. Ortiz is a better athlete than you think. His style belies his speed. You see the high guard and you're like, oh, it's a come forward Mexican fight. That's actually it's a little bit true of Pitbull too. Pitbull's, you know, short and doesn't have a jab. So Vergil is tall and he has good height for his weight class, and he has a great jab. So he's better than Pitbull. But where they're similar is that Pitbull's a high guard fighter and a come forward Mexican fighter, and I think you sleep on his speed a little bit. And that's something Lamont Roach better be prepared for, is how quickly the punch finds the target. Like, Pitbull cruises fast. He throws heat with speed. He's like Andy Ruiz a little bit. Like, he's got some speed. And I think that was the problem for Lubin tonight too, was the speed and the skill and the overall sharpness on defense and offense from Ortiz. I don't think he expected that. Again, he knew this dude was going to be relentless and strong, but I don't think he expected him to be that hard to hit, and I don't think he expected his reaction to be that quickly with his speed. Jameson Children said, what's a brother got to do for a wrench? Thanks for answering my question earlier, too. I got you. How do I do that? I have to make you a moderator, right? Boom. Boom. There you go, Jameson. I believe that gave you the wrench. Say something in the chat so I know the wrench is now there for my man, Jameson Childress. Super chat from my man, Jerry Soriano said, Lubin lost to Ramos, in my opinion. Officially a gatekeeper. He is a gatekeeper. He is. And he's in a tough spot, man, because it's dangerous for him to keep doing what he loves. He loves boxing. Lubin's a real fighter. He's got this. It's just he wasn't born with this. And that sucks. There's nothing you could do about that. He thinks that he was a thoroughbred in the amateurs. He was the prospect of the year. He always believed in himself that he would be world champion. That's another thing that was just impressive about Ortiz tonight is Lubin walked in there 100% believing he was going to win the fight. And Ortiz, by the end of the first round, midway through the second round, convinced him, no, you're not. And to do that to a fighter who, since he's been a teenager, has always believed it's his destiny, he's going to be a world champion, to convince him before you knock him out standing on his feet, out on his feet, I saw him already convince him he wasn't going to win. So Ortiz, super impressive tonight. Yep. Yeah. That's a damn. We got over 600 people in here. I feel bad because I think I already dropped all my gems tonight, chat. Right, Maria C? Right, Jameson Childress. I think, I don't know, man. What's up, Gyro Galvez? I think I cooked as much as I could cook. I feel bad. Now we got over 600 people in here and I already hit rewind. That's a great one. Anglo Vox says, if you've got a suspect chin, keep your head moving, and Lubin doesn't. That's a great point. Lubin, Khan, they can never find the Emmanuel Stewart, Lennox Lewis, Vladimir Klitschko remedy. And their remedy was, I'm super fucking tall and have an amazing hammer jab that hurts. And every time you get past said hammer jab, I'm going to clinch you, and I probably weigh more than you and I'm taller than you, and you cannot break out of said clinch. So Lubin and Khan could never find that adjustment for their chin. Lennox and Vladimir could. I'm trying to think of fighters below the heavyweight division who adjusted for a weak chin. Terry Norris's adjustment was, I will throw a 16-punch blistering combination and overwhelm you before you find my weak chin. That was Terry Norris's way to get past it. Anyway, we're getting into real boxing nerd territory there. Sean, who's the most vulnerable champ at 154? Easy. Abbas Barral, the guy who upset Yoenis Tellez. He's not beating Xander. He's strong and he's sturdy, and salute to him for coming out of nowhere to become a world champion, but he's not beating Xander. Xander's going to step around him too easily. Xander's feet are going to be too much for him, and Xander's smart. He's crafty. He's a skilled young fighter. He'll find the openings around Abbas Barrow's high guard and come forward style. It may not be easy. Maybe Barrow gets in his ass some rounds and makes it a long night, but I just don't see him beating Xander. Xander's good and only getting better. And pick this guy. He went to his fight ringside, saw him upset Tellez and said, Top Rank, that's who's next. Top Rank was going to try to feed him Giovanni Santillan, moving up from welterweight. Nobody gave a shit about that fight. That was going to do nothing for Xander. And Xander said, no, I got a better idea. Bring me the guy, the brother from Germany. I'll take his belt off of him. We'll put the fight in Puerto Rico. I'll have 2 belts on me and still be the weakest title holder, but who cares? But FMG Films, thank you for the super chat, brother, said, speaking of chins being gone and tying up, thoughts on Caleb Plant and Breadman split. I'm not surprised. And when so if you recall, FMG, me and my man Marcus Hayes from Fight Hub, KO Artist, Stephen Cuneo from the YouTube channel KO Artist, and myself, and probably another journalist or two, I can't remember right now, we had a scrum with Breadman at the Mandalay Bay right after Armando Resendiz, easily won, decisively upset Caleb Plant. And, man, Breadman was going in for 20 minutes about Caleb didn't let me, in so many words, Caleb didn't let me run camp. We can win a rematch if you let me run the camp the way I needed to. The duration it needs to be. I need to pick the sparring partners. I need to have the last word on the game plan. And what Breadman was doing something coaches in football, basketball, boxing never tend to do, and that's be honest. And that's tell us exactly what they're actually thinking. And as a reporter, I loved it. It's the reporter's dream for there to be 100% honesty. But I thought to myself, he must not care if he ever trains Caleb Plant again, because Caleb's not going to like this. Caleb's going to feel like he's throwing him under the bus. Caleb's not going to like that he's saying all this to the media. and Caleb will probably fire him. And from what I can gain from Breadman while listening to him in this scrum is he doesn't give a shit. And rest assured, Breadman didn't give a shit if Caleb was going to fire him. And that's basically what happened, or they parted ways, right? And in that regard, it's actually more of a mutual parting ways, because if Breadman knows being as candid with us is going to rub Caleb the wrong way and he doesn't care and he's going to say it anyways, then it's kind of more of a mutual parting. He's not getting fired. So I think Plant's punch resistance, it showed holes in it in the Trevor McCumbee fight. And Plant did a good job trying to convince me, because he was like, no, he didn't even hit me with a clean shot. I was off balance, all of that. And this is what Plant told himself and really believed. But I saw a fighter who couldn't take a good shot the way he used to in the McCumbee fight. And then he made that adjustment, fought in the phone booth against McCumbee, and kind of masked that he had lost something from the Canelo and Benavidez fights. And so my thoughts are, I like that Breadman kept it 100% real with us. I had a feeling that it would be his last fight with Caleb because he did that, and it was. And then to be, because I'm cool with Breadman and got so much respect for him as an analyst, not just as a trainer. But you could, Rick Glazer once said that Breadman is super smart and he's a good trainer, but he throws his fighters under the bus when they lose. And that he did that with J-Rock. You could argue from Caleb Plant's perspective that he did that to Caleb after Caleb lost to Resendiz. So that critique is worth mentioning for Breadman, but I got a lot of love for Breadman. And he was honest and didn't give a shit. He let the chips fall where they may, and they're not together anymore. And I don't know what to expect from Caleb anymore. He's made a lot of money. He became world champion. He went from the trailer park to a world title. He did that already. And he was still bringing up beating Jose Uzcategui in 2025. And his script had grown tired. You know, a lot of people out there said, I couldn't do this. Well, they live ordinary lives. And it's like, okay, we know, you did that. Salute to you, you did it. And going forward, you know, I think we're all down to see the Charlo fight because of the storyline, not because of any real significance it holds in the super middleweight division. It's a good storyline, and we're down to see the conclusion of it. But I don't know what to expect really from Caleb moving forward, and I'm not surprised they split. Thank you for the chat. And then Triple X 9407, thank you for the super chat, says, Sean, would Lubin turn out differently if he went to the Olympics instead of going pro so early? Maybe, but when I was high on Lubin when he won Prospect of the Year and he knocked out Cota, and I was like, man, I think it might have been Michael Montero, but it was someone else in the media, and I'm like, man, it's 50-50. I was so hyped for Lubin and Charlo. I was so excited for that fight. And I was picking Charlo, but I was every week heading in, I was like, oh, I kind of want to pick Lubin. And then I think it was Mike told me he doesn't have a good chin, bro. He had punch resistance problems in the amateurs. That was the scouting report on him. So winning a gold medal wouldn't have changed the problems he has with his chin. You know, Amir Khan won a silver medal. When he got to the pros, he hit a wall with the deficiency in his chin. So I think a better way to look at your question is, did he miss an opportunity by not being an Olympian and not maybe winning a gold medal? I don't see a gold medal style. You know, James DeGale, Amir Khan, you know, those guys had like gold medal styles. They were combination punchers. Lubin's not a combination puncher. He's more of a pot shot artist, and he's fast. But he wasn't even faster than Vergil Ortiz tonight. So he's not the fastest. He's fast, but he ain't the fastest. He can box, but he ain't the best boxer. And he's not a combination puncher. And combination punchers, those guys do really well in the Olympics. Like Anthony Joshua is a good combination puncher, especially back in the day before his chin got cracked a couple of times and he wasn't as concerned about what was coming back. So, no, I think Lubin is what he is, to answer your question. He's a very good boxer, but doesn't have a good chin. Isn't the fastest, most athletic guy to overcome the deficiencies when he gets hit. So no, Lubin is what he is. A good fighter who just couldn't make it at the championship level. Those guys are good and deserve our respect, But it is what it is. Jameson Childress, thank you again for the super chat. Says, last question, Sean. Is Shakur Stevenson's defense based on a previous fighter's style or just developed from working with his team as a kid? He definitely is a Floyd Mayweather product. Like, it's very obvious he grew up watching Floyd Mayweather, idolizing Floyd Mayweather, and absorbing what he could from watching Floyd Mayweather and implementing it into what he does. So, for sure. I mean, there were sequences in the Zepeda-Stevenson fight that were straight out of Maidana and De La Hoya against Mayweather. Like, there was Maidana Mayweather 1 looked very similar to Zepeda and Shakur Stevenson. And it's because Stevenson, to answer your question, based his defense and style off of Floyd. Now, the difference comes in, he has some of that USA boxing schooling, and he has a little bit of the Andre Ward influence in him. But I've seen the Andre Ward influence dissipate a little bit lately. He used to do the pause, I call it. I've never really heard anyone explain what Andre Ward, Bernard Hopkins, and J-Rock, who is from Philly like Bernard, they do what I call the pause. They're not holding their hands like this with the hands turned. They turn the hand around and put it in front like that, and they hold you like that, and it's hard to explain. They'll hold the gloves like this as opposed to like this. Right? And I call it the pause. They almost make a paw with their hands. And Shakur used to do that from Andre out of the southpaw. He'd measure you like that. And now I've seen that dissipate from his game. And he's kind of doing a little bit more like Bud does. But at the end of the day, the biggest influence in his style is Floyd. But yeah, he's got his own USA boxing schooling and his own way he keeps his distance and uses his jab. He's got his own stuff too, but he definitely took something from Floyd Mayweather. So, but yeah, man, what I loved about Hopkins, man, he'd do this Hopkins used to every now and then when he got older hold his hands like a kung fu master almost. It was like, yeah, Childress said, yeah, like they're always ready to parry any incoming punch. Yeah, that's like spirit fingers. No, not spirit, but they got them paws. And Bud breathed life into the cross arms defense. I wouldn't call what Bud, and he only brought it out for Canelo and Spence, which is interesting to me. I'm sure if I look at his whole career, I'll find it in other little spots. But basically, Crawford, he brought out that cross arms defense for Spence and for Canelo, like. It's not a shoulder roll. It's more like, I'm doing it very ugly right now, but he had like that. And I love the cross arm defense with the jab. That's like real old school Sugar Ray Robinson, Archie Moore, Georgie Benton, Jersey Walcott type of shit. And Ken Norton, keeping it. I love that shit from Crawford. I know I was hating and mad at him for selling out to Saudi Arabia and everything, but the boxing purist in me can't overlook the beauty that Crawford does in the ring. And that cross arm defense, man, we haven't seen that. You know, it was the last guy I saw do it, and he wasn't very good at it. He would do it in retreat. Was Cotto. You knew Cotto was in trouble when he started cross arm defense in retreat. But Bud, man, that shit is beautiful. And it's like this secret weapon he has that he only brought out for his two biggest fights, which makes it even cooler. Panama says, I like sparring with the pause, easier to parry. We have created a new boxing term. It's called the pause, chat. We coined it here. We patented it here on this live stream for Ortiz Lupin. It's called the pause. When you turn, instead of everything right here. And this doesn't count. Not a quick catch. No, you got to go full on Kung Fu Master Bernard Hopkins pause. So Floyd would do it when Floyd got really comfortable and in sparring or something, and he would keep his chin up as if to say, like, you ain't shit. He would leave the lead hand all the way low, and he would paw with the right glove. Remember, and he, you know, but when I think of the pause, I think of Bernard and Andre. So, Devontae said, "You a hater, dog." Team Crawford. You're a hater. You're a hater. Where is your Terrence Crawford interview from his HBO debut against Breedis Prescott? Show receipt, because I interviewed him. I said, wait, hold on. Wait a minute, sir. Because yes, you touched a nerve, and I'm happy you touched this nerve, because I get to, this is for dick riding fans. Not saying you're one of them, but the point you brought up allows me to address them. Hold on. All right, for those calling me a Crawford hater, because I was critical of him bringing the Saudi influence in boxing with TKO, and that was part of why I had to ask the question to Dana White, was because of fighters like Terrence Crawford getting in bed with them. But hold on, I have something here. Wait. Okay, you're gonna see. This is called a receipt, sir. I'm a Terrence Crawford hater. Let's see. What's the title of that video say, sir? Let's see. Let's highlight it. Sean Zittel explains why Terrence Crawford is the #1 fighter in boxing. What's the date on this? March 20th, 2017. Okay. So I'm gonna flip it on. You're a Crawford hater. Where is your video? I need a video. I need a receipt. Where is your video from 8 years ago, almost 9 years ago, saying Crawford's the best fighter in the world? Where's your receipt of his HBO debut, interviewing him after that? It doesn't exist. It exists with your boy. So hold on, because you're gonna see an extremely you're gonna see a very stoned and chubby version of me tell you why Crawford was the best in the world.
Sean, what do you pound for pound wise, the landscape? What do you think about boxing right now? Who?
I don't know why it was a good idea to get on camera so stoned. I think I've grown as an on-air talent since then, but...
Who are the best fighters, or the best fighter, if you had to pick one?
I usually like to go with best fighters, because very rarely do I really see one guy ahead of... Usually, there's great... And this goes to history, too.
Mm-hmm.
It's...
Shut up.
Since he's burst onto the scene against Breedis Prescott. No one's... but Postal had it, 2-2 and 4. Gamboa had some success early and gets knocked out. Yes, Gamboa, but he's fought some pretty good competition and no one's even tested him. And he's the guy where you could check every box. Can he box?
Yes.
Superb boxer. Can he fight off the back foot? For sure. Can he put real hurt on the guy going forward? Yeah. And that's what's really great about Crawford, is he's such a great technical fighter, and he has real speed. He's not the most athletic guy, but he has real speed and real movement, all that. Real athletic guy, but he can hurt you with both hands, and he can fight southpaw, right-handed. But at 140, I think he's the toughest package maybe to beat in all of boxing. At 140 pounds right now, he's just a beast.
Yeah, no, he's...
So yeah, I was saying, because at the time it was like, is Chocolatito #1 pound for pound, or is Andre Ward? And I was saying, yeah, I was actually high in that video, but I said I had Crawford over Lomachenko because I said Lomachenko can't punch going backwards. Lomachenko, for as amazing as his angles are, he's a side to side in, find the angle in, and Crawford, with his length, he could fuck you up on the back foot. He could go backwards, side to side, or he could take it to you and bite down and fight and beat your ass that way. So I thought Crawford was the best fighter in the world, pound for pound. So I've given Crawford praise for such a long time. I had to keep it real about getting in bed with the Saudis, man, and all that stuff. But hey, it is what it is. There's no going back in time and changing that decision. He did what he did. I don't agree with it. But he's also, just an incredible fighter. You guys don't need me to tell you that. So, your articulation and speaking has skyrocketed then. Thank you. It's rough to go back and watch that. But, whatever. At least it was the right take. So I think I missed a couple super chats. Hold on. Man. Okay, I got Okay, I got Maria. Thank you so much, Maria. Maria says, best analysis and best chat in boxing. Like and subscribe, people. Thank you, Maria, so much. Maria's awesome. My wife loves her too. We're just grateful she's always in the chat. Awesome moderator. Maria said B-Hop was the master. That's why she's a moderator, chat, because she says sensible things like that that makes me know I can trust her. Edgar Coda, thank you for the super chat, my brother. Good to hear from you. Says, Sean, it's been a while. Good to see you cooking as always. Who do you honestly think wins, Ortiz or Boots? Boots. I edge it to Boots, but I could also see Boots getting fucked up because of all his leaky defensive flaws and the way he just doesn't always keep it tight. But he tightened up for Stan Jonas, and I think he tightens up for Ortiz. But Ortiz is more fundamentally sound, and he's got the speed to compete with Ennis's athleticism, and he keeps everything more tight and more compact, and he's so serious and so intense and has great conditioning. He's going to throw heat all 12. He's not a front runner or nothing. He's a dog and everything. I could see Ortiz knocking his block off, but I'm going to go with Ennis. He's a little bit bigger, and he's just so talented. He's just so talented that he does, for every flaw he has a tool that other fighters just can't do that makes up for it. So Ennis, based on being a little bit bigger and having a little bit more versatility to offset Ortiz's superior fundamentals and discipline. And I think Ennis showing a strong chin gives him just enough punch resistance to puncture, because he's going to get hit against Ortiz, but he's been showing a good chin. Against who, though? That chin hasn't really been tested. But when you're fighting professionals at any level, and they are finding your chin clean, like Delorme did, like Lipinets did a couple times, like Chukajan did a number of times, and he ain't moving, and he keeps taking chances and running red lights, that tells you the guy might take a good fucking punch. And guys from Philly, Meldrick Taylor didn't have a good chin, but, usually have a good chin, or at least tough. Sometimes they're tougher than their chin is. But I'm going to favor Ennis. But I wouldn't be surprised if he gets his chin checked, man, and Ortiz beats him just with superior fundamentals and, again, having enough velocity to catch up to Ennis and punch with him. He might knock Ennis out. That's a great fight, because Ennis, he'll get overzealous in the pocket. He'll trust his chin too much, and he's the best punctuator in the game alongside Crawford. He's the best at punctuating the exchange. But Ortiz will punch with you. He has timing too. And I keep picturing in my head, Ennis gonna get caught with a hook in between shots. He gets caught with hooks anyways in between shots. Now he's gonna fight by far the best fighter he's ever fought, and Vergil's really good. Vergil's gonna catch him. Sounds like a really good fight. I just wish that everything would be on the line if they're gonna fight next. But you know what? Fuck it. Just they could fight next, and it's a great fight. Matt Borgeson said DFG looked horrible. Man, Vergil saved the card. Oh my god. Yeah, I think the best prospect on the undercard was Josh Edwards. Amari Jones punches hard, and again, I love Amari. I covered him for years since he's a teenager, coming up with Devin, but he didn't impress me particularly tonight. His power looked good though. And then Josh Edwards, he looked good. He's a prospect at heavyweight. A little undersized, and he's gotta see how he looks on defense. He looked nice on offense with his lead hand low and getting creative off the jab with his combinations. How's he look? Is he got maneuvers on offense? Defense. I mean, that remains to be seen. But Fulgham is just not championship level material. Triple X says, when will we see Boots versus Bud? I never thought it would happen, but if Boots can beat Ortiz and Crawford's about to fight Janibek at 60, they could get it in at 60. And if Turkey wants to Turkey doesn't seem to mind losing money. If he's okay losing money to satiate the big fat guarantee that Crawford would want and then pay Boots as well, And yeah, and then also Crawford's kind of indebted to Turkey. You know, he gave him a bunch of money he doesn't actually draw at the box office. So in a sense, Crawford's indebted to him, and Turkey has made it very clear that, like, that's why he said to him when Crawford was training in the UFC gym for Canelo, he said no retirement. He made sure he said that where the whole world could hear it, because he already knows it's only human nature that Crawford, who has nothing left to prove and is going to make a gajillion dollars fighting Canelo and then beat him, why would he really want to keep getting punched in the face? Even as crazy and as competitive as he is. So Turkey kind of got out in front of that in my eyes, and that's why he said it on video, because he wants to kind of help ensure that Crawford's not going to run off with all the money and retire in the sunset. So because Turkey has that prerogative, and because it doesn't seem to be a problem yet burning through money, then yeah, maybe Crawford and Boots will get it in. And the scenario that it happens is Crawford becomes the middleweight champion, and Ennis actually lands the Ortiz fight, which I'm not fully convinced he will. I'm not convinced that Golden Boy will really want to do that fight next, when they could do Fundora, who he'll beat, and he'll pick up a belt, as opposed to Ennis, who might beat him, and you won't pick up a belt even if you do prevail against him. So I'm skeptical it even happens, but if it does happen, and Boots beats Ortiz, and Crawford does fight Janibek for the middleweight championship, they can get it in at 160 because Turkey will be signing the checks. So there you go. But dominoes rarely tend to fall in nice form like that in boxing, the way I laid them out. They almost never do. So yeah. Matt Borgenson said, if Crawford beats Janibek and Boots at 60, is he the GOAT? I guess so. I mean, I like what Laser Light said. GOAT is too theoretical. There's a few of them. I prefer a Mount Rushmore characterization. Yeah, I agree. Crawford will have his claim to being the greatest fighter that ever lived if he becomes the middleweight champion. Yes. And I love that accomplishment for him. I have a video I still need to drop with Raheem where we talked about it back on Monday. And Crawford, because here's the thing, you know, the middleweight title for decades in boxing was considered the second most important title underneath the heavyweight title. To be king of the middleweights is a special distinction in boxing. That's why Golovkin, Hopkins, Hagler, Monzon, and Robinson went, like, those guys, especially Hagler and Hopkins and Golovkin, their identity of greatness and as fighters was connected to being the middleweight champion. That there's a special designation to that. There's a designation to being the lightweight champion and the welterweight champion. But I think no other title holds the prestige under the heavyweight division as being the world's middleweight champion and holding all those titles. So for Crawford to join that pantheon, if he were to beat Janibek and join Hopkins and Golovkin and Monzon and Hagler and Robinson, and on top of, I did it in 6 divisions and from 35 to 68, which no one ever did, but to also, on top of all that, have another notch in your belt that you were the middleweight champion. It's another area you'll have bested Floyd Mayweather, because him and Floyd are tied at 5 divisions apiece, and he's already surpassed Floyd, not in resume, not in the Hall of Fame number of names he beat, but he has surpassed him in weight. Floyd did 24 pounds, 30 to 54. Crawford's done 33, from 35 to 68. And Floyd, if he gave a shit about the boxing nerd shit that we care about, that apparently Crawford, surprisingly, might care about. Because I didn't think middleweight hardware and a no-name in Janibek would be enough to really entice Crawford after making $1 zillion fighting Canelo in front of like 70,000 people. I didn't think Janibek would scratch the next itch for him. But apparently he does give a shit about history and does care about 6th division and middleweight champion and all that boxing nerd stuff we care about. And Floyd didn't. And if he did, he could have been the middleweight champion when Cotto won the title. And Martinez, maybe he could have beaten Maravilla Martinez. That would have been a tricky fight for Floyd Mayweather, but a winnable fight. Cotto, he for sure could have beaten, but he didn't care about that stuff. And so Crawford will have one-upped him there too. And these are Crawford's equalizers. Okay, in terms of names, you have me beat. You have De La Hoya and Mosley and Pacquiao, and we both have Canelo. We share Canelo. You beat him when he was younger. I beat him at a better weight. It's a draw. Although I think Crawford gets a little bit more credit by most people because Canelo was undisputed. But anyway, Floyd has the names. The way Crawford, his equalizer is, yeah, but I did it in more divisions, and I was the middleweight champ. You weren't the middleweight. Things like that. He has certain cards he could play that Floyd didn't have in his deck. So I love the fight. I think it's a competitive fight. Janibek would be the longest fighter because Janibek fights at long range, and Madrimov was good and tricky at long range, but he's going to feint you more than anything at that range. He's going to try to feint you and get in mid-range to get his best stuff off. Janibek he has really good power in his left hand, and he's good at long range with that left hand, and he disguises it and has different traps for it. And so it'd be southpaw versus southpaw. And I think Janibek's interesting because unlike Canelo, he's not on silk sheets. He's really hungry. He's been dying for a big fight. And forget big fight, you're going to get a shot at the guy, the man. I think Crawford beats him because he's just better than him. But he will be almost 40 years old. And he will be fighting a guy that's not waking up on silk sheets. And he will be fighting a guy, unlike Canelo, that doesn't have to get close to him. He doesn't always have to be worried about cutting distance, getting close to Crawford. He can touch Crawford at the same distances Crawford touches guys at. Canelo couldn't do that. So, yeah, I love the fight. I like the fight a lot. And I like the fight because it's just a fight. It's not an event. It's not a spectacle. It's not, oh my God, Netflix and every celebrity is going to be here for Canelo Crawford, and it's a race war between black and Mexican people. And it's just a good fight. And we're going to see if Crawford could become the middleweight champion. That works for me. I'm good with that. It's not a sports washing extravaganza where the Raiders play. Like, it's just a middleweight title fight. That tickles my fancy more. So yeah. Let's see. Will it be in Omaha? That's a good question, Maria. No, it'd probably be a Saudi. Probably be wherever the fuck the guy writing the checks wants it to be, which would probably be Riyadh. Remember, I think that he kind of wanted that fight in Saudi Arabia with Canelo, but Canelo had leverage. He's the guy. He's the star. And Canelo, it was never confirmed, but I'll always be curious if Canelo had to put his foot down about Vegas, and if the real original plan was you're gonna fight Crawford in Saudi. We'll never know. We probably will actually, but nobody cares except me. So that's about it. I think that's all I got, chat. You guys were awesome tonight. Let me read this, though, from Raymond Malone. I love my guy, Sean Z. However, he's way too confident in Ortiz beating Fundora. Vergil is extremely fundamental and up and down at his height. Breaking Fundora's mid-range is tough and his power is underrated. Bro, but Zhu was catching... Right before he stopped Zhu at the end of that round, Zhu was... busted his nose wide open and was catching him with bombs. Zhu, before he got cut in the first fight, was hitting him at will. Mendoza flattened him with a hook. Lubin dropped him. And Fundora, his offense and his height is his defense. And Fundora's gotten better. And Fundora has, over the years, been a little underrated. And he's a fucking dog, and his fights are always entertaining. And again, he's gotten better. He is hell for anybody. It's not an easy fight for Vergil, but Vergil beats him. That's what I think. So, but all right, chat. You guys are all awesome. I'm gonna probably circle my block outside and film myself talking about the fight so I have an instant reaction. But you guys got the real reaction here on the stream. Yeah, if you guys haven't liked and subscribed yet, please do. Helps my channel. I want to thank all the moderators and everybody who came in tonight. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're right here with me, and I appreciate that. So, all right, God bless everyone. Take care. And yeah, man, Ortiz, A+, 10 out of 10 tonight. Him and Boots is going to be a fight that lives up to the hype if it actually happens. I still kind of think Oscar's going to opt to do the Fundora fight. But it actually probably comes down to Turkey because Hearn is seeing the writing on the wall that your talent is going to get absorbed into this Turkey TKO machine. You're risking that if you keep taking the short-term big paydays from Turkey off the top. So Eddie's moving like he's tried to take Boots to be his own independent thing, just his own matchroom thing. But the problem is Ortiz and his team are only going to allow Ortiz to take that risk against Ennis if there's a fuck ton of money being put on the table from Turkey. If Eddie tries to do the honorable thing and go, hey, mate, let's do the fight here and eat what we kill. We'll put on, we and Oscar will talk shit. We'll get the Mexican fans excited. We'll get the black fans excited. We'll put on a big show in America. And I think Team Ortiz is going to go, no. If we're going to take this fight, we want the money that Turkey was offering that we originally were going to agree to fight you in the first place. We want that money, not this bullshit. And I think in that scenario, if that happens and Eddie isn't willing to take the fight to Saudi, then I think Ortiz is going to wind up fighting Fundora next. It'd be nice if the WBC did their fucking job and mandated it. Just saying. But anyway, goodbye, everybody.